Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Los Angeles City Council. A Happy New Year to everybody. This is our first meeting of the year 2006. Welcome to City Hall and welcome to John Ferraro Council Chambers. Today is January 11th, 2006. The Los Angeles City Council meets 3 times a week on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and all meetings are open to the public. For those who cannot make it to City Hall, meetings are televised via cable on Channel 35 and can be viewed by visiting our website, lacity.org. We also take testimony from our Van Nuys City Hall, thanks to Councilmember Greg Smith, and we invite folks to come there to give public testimony as well. This meeting is now in session. City Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Cardenas, Gruel, Hahn, Huizar, Labange, Padilla, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Weiss, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti, 12 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. If we can ask our former Speaker of the Assembly, Mr. Herb Wesson, to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, salute to the flag, and if I can ask all members to please rise, and members of the audience as well. Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, Mr. Wesson. And thank you all, colleagues, for your timeliness and your promptness here today. Very much appreciate that. First item of business, Madam Clerk.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Cardenas moves, and Ms. Gruel seconds.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Ms. Hahn moves, Mr. Huizar seconds. They are approved.
Mr. President, this is the time for comments from the public on items not on Council's agenda.
Okay, this time we'll take public comment. If I can ask the following folks to please come up to the podium. Noel Weiss, Yolinda Jo Wright, Alberto Tlatoa, Maribel Tlatoa, Teleforo Rios, Sylvia Hawkins, and we'll have a timer there as well on the, if we can set that for 2 minutes, please. And for each of the speakers, just you can see the time that you have left on the podium, okay? And we will begin.
10. Where's Miss?
This is our first time doing it to make sure. We got it running? Let's do 10 minutes for public comment and 2 minutes per speaker, please.
Great.
Okay, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, good morning. My name is Noel Weiss. I'm actually looking for Mr. Rosendahl. I saw him here a second ago. There he is. Mr. Rosendahl, good morning. I'm not here to criticize you, Mr. Rosendahl. I'm here to challenge you, because that would be, the easy thing would be to be critical, so I want to challenge you and I want to challenge this council. It's about Lincoln Place. And it's a very important situation, ladies and gentlemen, because we are this close to having about 37 or 38 acres of vacant apartments in the midst of a housing crisis. It's avoidable, and the council can basically take action. Now, I want to just take my 2 minutes very quickly here. Number one, we have a developer who is trying to basically use the Ellis Act to hijack the process in order to get a better deal. Ms. Gruel, Mr. Reyes, you had conditions on this project that came out of this council on November 20th, 2002. Those conditions are expected to be enforced. They are not basically being enforced. We are now in a situation where the key problem is that they haven't been recorded. This council can direct the planning department to record the conditions. Mr. Rosendahl, if the city attorney tells you it can't be done, Ms. Gruel can tell you that it can be done because we did it in Platinum Live. And we solved the situation in Platinum Live with a little out-of-the-box thinking and recording these conditions. They can be recorded, and here's proof of it. Number two, an Ellis Act tit for tat, Mr. Rosendahl. Okay, we have a problem here because you seem confounded by the fact that the developer's using the Ellis Act, and the City Council seems stymied. But the Ellis Act, basically, a two-edged sword. The Ellis Act also gives tenants rights, and one of the rights that it gives the tenants is a 10-year right of return if this body acts to give the tenants that right. Now, when I say tit for tat, what I mean is specifically that what you can do is you can pass an eviction moratorium, which you talked about, but we never followed up on. Number two, with that eviction moratorium, you tie to it the 10-year right of return. That gives the developer the opportunity, basically, to say, you know what, if I invoke the Ellis Act, isn't it right to have the tenants have the benefit of their Ellis Act rights? It's a completely neutral, and it will bring these people back to the table.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your public comment. Yolinda Jo Wright.
Hello, I just wanted to say welcome back from the recess, and I hope you enjoyed your holiday. And since I lost someone, I wanted to take this opportunity to say, that I feel really bad for the individuals who lost their 11-year-olds in San Bernardino on Thanksgiving and on Christmas. And I'm so glad that the individual, who senselessly shot into the house in San Bernardino on Christmas was arrested. That was a really good thing. And I just want to say, welcome back. Terrific.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the comments. Alberto Tlatoa, Maribel Tlatoa.
Good morning, City Council members. My name is Alberto Tlatoa. Hopefully this body and the mayor, Antonio Villaraigosa, will intervene in preserving the South Central Farm that provides many positive benefits to our community. We have been struggling for about 2 years to preserve this 14-acre oasis, yet this body and the mayor has not done anything to try to preserve this environment that provides nutritious foods for our family and provides a safe environment for our community. Hopefully, you guys will not make that same mistake, and this year, hopefully you guys will do something about it, because we are here. By not preserving this positive environment, you're increasing the high crime rate at already is 6 in South Central, and the very low-income family, you are depriving them of food. So hopefully this year you will find something in your hearts and do something for the South Central Farm. Aquí estamos y no nos vamos.
Thank you very much. Teleforo Rios? No. Sylvia Hawkins?
Good morning, everyone. Speaking on something that's off the agenda today, it's very important that we come to a conclusion and a decision concerning abortions. The answer is no on abortion, and the reason are because it is a woman's choice. I'm here to explain to you concerning abortion in a different route, which is concerning whether the child or the fetus was aborted once the woman agreed and signed upon an abortion. The women was lied upon, or lied to believe that the child is aborted. So therefore, the child was not dead once the mother had an abortion. I'm here to ask everyone to say no on abortion because the child is alive, and the mother is believing now that the child is dead. They were lied to by doctors. And now the child is sold for adoption and into foster care for a price. I am with the decision of a woman to choose tied to, which means the two type can be reversal at the time of the choice of the woman. These decision is based on whether you are able or disabled and at the time of your age to have a child. Waiting is over for a choice for a woman or a man to rule over our decisions. Two-tie is very important with a waiting period of 8 months before you have your two ties to basically make a decision on the timing of a child, which the two type can be reversal, male and female. I'm against aborting a child. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hawkins. We appreciate your testimony. And Candido Maras.
Good morning, council members. Happy New Year's. Mr. Garcetti, congratulations. I wanted to be here today on your first day. Yesterday was supposed to be that day, but you and I had a more important thing to do, and I want to thank all of you that were at Mr. Bernardi's funeral yesterday. It's, you know, when you're there, everybody wants you, and everybody wants to have access to you. But yesterday, we were able to say goodbye to a very dear friend. I was honored and privileged to be part of that procedure, and I just, again, want to thank you and to say to you that, remember, this is a new year. Let's not forget those that are less fortunate. This is the greatest city in the greatest country, and I believe the leadership is here, and I look forward to seeing you do those things that are great for all of the people of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maras. That closes our public comment first of this year. If we can move on to next order of business, please.
Before beginning the regular agenda, Mr. President, there are several items that have been requested to be continued. Items 7, 8, 9, and 42, Building and Safety, and Councilmember Parks are requesting those matters be continued to January 26th. Excuse me, January 25th.
Is there any objection to that continuation? If not, it's unanimous vote of the council. So ordered.
Next item is, item 54. There's also a request to continue that matter from Mr. Parks to Friday, which is January 13th.
Okay, is there any objection to that? If not, it's unanimous vote of the council. So ordered.
On the regular agenda, items noticed for public hearing, items 1 through 6 are street lighting ordinances, either confirming or abandoning the projects.
Okay. Let us take up those items together. If we can please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Those are approved.
Next items are also public hearing items, items for which public hearings have been held, items 10 through 22.
Okay.
And I believe there's a request on item number 11 to take that up with an item in the special meeting, and also just to let council know on item number 20, that should be Council District 9.
Okay. Let's keep item 11 on the desk and make that amendment. Any specials, colleagues? Seeing none, let's prepare the roll for the balance and tabulate the votes.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Next items?
Next items are items for which public hearings have not been held, items 23 through 39. 10 votes are required for consideration, and I believe there is an amendment on item number 33.
Has that been circulated?
It's going to be a verbal amendment.
Okay. Would you like to make the amendment now, Mr. Smith? There's new microphones, colleagues, just so you know. It's like the Van Nuys ones. We will... And just for today, you don't need to get close to them. They will project well.
They
so
get
don't-
close to us.
Absolutely.
That's good. All right. We make a verbal amendment that we delete recommendation number 4, and that by adopting the city engineer's report, we affirm the recommendations included therein, which instruct this to proceed under the old report, and that the ordinance of intention be prepared by Bureau of Engineering.
Great. Thank you. Any specials, colleagues, from those? Seeing none, let's take the balance. Okay. Let us open and close public hearings for these items in which we have not had public hearings. Those are open and closed. And please prepare the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Those are approved. Next items, please.
Next items are closed session, items 40 and 41. Do you wish to hold those on the desk?
Yes, please. Let's hold both of those on the desk.
On the continuation agenda, items 42 through 47 are public hearing items, and the recommendation action for council on 42 through 46 is to open the hearings and continue the hearings and ordinances to January 31st.
Okay. Let us open the hearings on those and continue them to January 31st. If there's no
Next item
objection.
is also a public hearing item. It's item number 47. It's the Wilshire Center Business Improvement District and an ordinance.
Okay. Anybody wishing to call that special? Now let's open and close the public hearing on that. Please prepare the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Next items?
Next item are items for which public hearings have been held, items 48 through 57.
Okay. Colleagues, any specials? Mr. Smith?
50, go back to the ad hoc committee on Renew LA.
Okay. Item 50 is the ad hoc, on Renew LA? Okay. Any objection to that? Yes. If there's no objection, let's so ordered. And Ms. Hahn?
I'd like to call 49 special.
49. Great. We will call 49 special. Any others, colleagues? Madam Clerk, on the balance, please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Those are approved. Next items.
Next items are items for which public hearings have not been held, items 58 through 89. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay. I think we have cards on 67 and 69, so let's call those special. Any other specials, colleagues? Seeing none, let's open the public hearing and close the public hearings on those items.
And, Mr. President, I believe on item number 77, there's a request from Councilmember Parks to hold that on the desk. I believe there's an amendment.
Okay, let's hold 77 on the desk then. And let us prepare the roll on the balance and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Next items.
Going back to the items called special, I believe item number 11 was called special, however, that's waiting for the special meeting, which is at 10:30. Do you wish to take up item number 67 at this time?
Let us wait on that. What number did we go through? We've gone through item, did we include item 86 just now?
Yes, those were already taken care of.
Okay, why don't we reconsider 86? There's been a request to take that out of order. We can open the roll, reconsideration, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12
Okay,
eyes.
let's hold that on the desk as well. Okay? So with that, yes, let's take up, let's see. We have item 67 before us. Why don't we, before we take that up, if there's no objection, then there's a request for Mr. Cardenas to take up item 86 out of order. Is there any objection to that? If not, that's unanimous vote of the council. And if we can take up item number 86, please. Madam Clerk, if you can just announce what item 86 is, Madam Clerk. What do you want? I'm sorry, are you not ready?
They're not ready.
Okay, why don't we hold that on the table then? And would you still like to take that out of order when they're ready? You'll just let us know, okay. So if we can return to the other items.
Okay, the next item then, you're holding 67 on the desk. 69, there is a card on that item.
Okay, item 69, Candido Maris, if we can invite you to come forward on that item. Mr. Maris still with us? Candido? I think I see you in the back. Mr. Maris? Why don't we hold that on the desk until somebody can get Mr. Maris's attention? Mr. Maris, item number 69 is before us, if you'd like to give your public comment at this time. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. This is in regards to the Hilti contract. I went before the Energy and Commerce Committee, and I was against this contract because they were calling it a sole source. After talking with Hilti, they have agreed to meet with small businesses and try to make them part of their contract. So, again, I want to thank Councilman Cardenas, Councilwoman Hahn, and Mr. Rosenthal for allowing us to speak at the Energy and Commerce Committee. And again, when a sole source contract comes before you, I hope that you'll ask questions to make sure that it's not only a sole source, but maybe hopefully we can break it down and see if we can spread some of that business throughout the city of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maris. Any members wishing to be heard on this item? Seeing none, please prepare the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 eyes.
That is approved. Okay, let us then return to item, is Lawa ready on item 86? We have folks here, if not, let us take up item 67 then. We have a number of public speaker cards on item 67. Colleagues, if I can please ask each one of you on this item. This is new territory for the city in terms of a charter invocation from a general manager. So for this, if we can please have our attention. If I can ask folks in the audience, and I'm going to ask the sergeants at arms for their assistance. If folks are standing in the back, we'd ask you, there are plenty of seats, to please take a seat, or if not, to take your conversations outside of the council chambers so that we can make sure that we hear this very important item. With that, before we hear public comment, what we are going to do, colleagues, is we are going to have Mr. Stuckey address us over 10 minutes. I believe there is a PowerPoint presentation that is involved with this. Following that, we will take public comment unless members have questions for Mr. Stuckey while he is here, at which time we will then take up the matter. If our city attorney gives us any legal advice that we need to go into closed session based on either lawsuit justification or personnel matter justification, we will do that. But otherwise, we will conduct this in open session. If we do not take action today, this stays with us for 9 more working days of the council. If we do take action, it will stay with us nevertheless and be agendized on a continuation agenda per the interpretation of the charter. So it'll be something that we will have already had public testimony, so we will not have public hearing on it during those 9 days if action is taken. But as per the charter, it can be reconsidered by council members for 9 more working days to take an action towards reinstatement. So with that, thank you very much, Mr. Stuckey, for being here, and I know your counsel is here as well. And with that, if you can please set the clock for 10 minutes, Madam Clerk, and the podium is yours.
Good morning, council members. My name is Ed Lear. I'm an attorney, and I represent Mr. Gordon Stuckey, who is here to my left. Mr. Stuckey was wrongfully terminated by Mayor Villaraigosa, and we asked the City Council to consider reinstating Mr. Stuckey. When Mr. Stuckey was hired, representations were made to him that as long as he performed his job, that he would continue in that employment. As I will show through a PowerPoint presentation, Mr. Stuckey did perform his job, and in fact, the statistics bear out that the no-kill policy that Mayor Hahn had indicated as his regime policy was in fact being accomplished. And it was a 36-month agenda for Mr. Stuckey to accomplish. He was given just over a year before he was terminated by Mayor Villaraigosa, who as recently as November of 2005 publicly endorsed Mr. Stuckey and publicly acknowledged that Mr. Stuckey was doing the job that he was hired to do. It was just a month thereafter that all of a sudden Mayor Villaraigosa in the local papers was indicating that Mr. Stuckey was terminated for failure to have performed his job competently. And I will share with you those quotes. If we may put the PowerPoint presentation up. Excuse me? Oh, there it is. Okay. Oops. There it is. Mr. Stuckey was hired by the city during the Mayor Hahn regime.
One moment.
Do you have a
yes.
handout of this here?
I will make one available, but I don't have one for all
Split screen that I
of you.
can't see as well.
If you want to come up here, Mr. Labanza, there's a slightly bigger version of it. Okay. Thank you. Please continue.
In November of 2004, former Deputy Mayor Don Liu stated to Mr. Stuckey, who was concerned about job security with the position of Director of Animal Services, that as long as you do your job, you do not have anything to worry about. You'll retain position as long as you do your job. Those were key statements made by the city to Mr. Stuckey, upon which he relied in leaving from his employment in Maryland to move to California to take what he viewed to be the plum job of his career. He viewed this job in Los Angeles to be one of the great challenges that was going on across the country, insofar as the Department of Animal Services had prior to that gone through approximately 4 managers in 3 years or so. Mr. Stuckey came in understanding that Mayor Hahn's agenda and goal was to make LA a no-kill city within 36 months. Mayor Hahn had originally indicated in August of 2003 that his plan was to have a no-kill agenda in this city. Stuckey appointed November 2004. In January 2005, he developed a no-kill plan, and in March of 2005, as he was hired to do, he implemented a no-kill plan. And in fact, as indicated in the LA Times magazine of May 2005, Mr. Stuckey was in fact on the way to making Los Angeles a no-kill city. And in the interview, he indicated that the goal was realistic and that his administration was effecting and implementing items to make that goal a reality. Oops. Mr. Stuckey accomplished significant things in the year plus that he worked for the city. From November 2004 to December 2005, there was a 15.6% decrease in the total number of animals killed. This was the best percentage reduction in 4 years. There was a 31.1% decrease in the number of dogs killed for time and space. there was a 40.2% decrease in the number of cats killed for time and space. There was a 24% decrease in the number of dogs killed for medical reasons. There was a 10.2% decrease in the number of cats killed for medical reasons, and an almost 200% increase in the number of unweaned animals saved. There was a 22.3% increase in the vouchers issued for spay and neuter program. Mr. Stuckey and his administration increased the mobile sterilization funding by $400,000, increasing the total program funding to almost $1 million. He implemented the Animal Cruelty Task Force, he developed the city's anti-tethering program, and he developed mitigating dog shooting program for the LAPD. Additionally, he achieved an 88% customer service satisfaction rating for animals adopted from our shelters. In addition to that, he enhanced the department's website. He developed an email blast of daily kill list. He coordinated 102 community outreach events. There were 77 mobile pet adoptions, resulting in 777 adoptions. He created a partnership with the San Pedro Post Office, and he created an outreach program to gay and lesbian youth. Additionally, he increased the expenditures for outside vet care from $67,000 to $99,000, a 47% increase. He developed a CD called Choosing the Right Pet. He developed a quality review team for kennel care, and he developed policies for medical protocols to improve accountability, transfer of animals between shelters, and internal investigations. Those accomplishments fly in the face of Mayor Villaraigosa's comments to the LA Times and other press that Mr. Stuckey did not do his job. And in fact, looking to November 2005, and I know it's difficult to read and we'll have handouts for everybody, Mayor Villaraigosa was quoted in the LA Times as saying, "We're committed to reducing the number of animals we kill in our own shelters, and we're going to work together to lower that to low kill or no kill like they have in other cities, like New York and San Francisco and Philadelphia." The article discusses the fact that during the election for mayor, not Councilmember Villaraigosa at that time, promised that he would fire Stuckey. But on November 2nd, he promised, or he indicated, that Stuckey would keep his job because he has committed himself to reducing the number of animals killed in shelters. And in fact, the statistics that I showed bear that out. Mayor Villaraigosa stated, "Mr. Stuckey is standing here with us in support of that. And so, to the extent that our managers understand that ultimately I got elected to move an agenda ahead, and they support that, then we'll go from there." That's an unequivocal endorsement as of November 2nd, 2005, of Mr. Stuckey and the job that he was doing on behalf of the city. Shortly thereafter, animal rights activists picket outside the mayor's home and at his public appearances. Yet, Villaraigosa, not acknowledging that that's the reason for the turn of events, instead indicates that Stuckey was terminated based on performance. And that's indicated in the newspaper article that I have up on the screen. Again, absolutely inconsistent with the statistics and the record that bear out that Stuckey was doing what he was hired to do, namely to move an agenda towards a no-kill within 36 months. That's exactly what he was doing. That's exactly what the statistics bear out. Mayor Villaraigosa then later states, again in a newspaper article, Stuckey was fired because he had not significantly reduced euthanasia at shelters or increased adoption of animals. Flat out wrong. Mayor Villaraigosa is fired Mr. Stuckey for pretextual reasons simply not borne out by the statistics. Mr. Stuckey was doing his job. It's borne out by the statistics. Lastly, the mayor's spokesperson, Joe Romallo, in a newspaper article, again on your screen, argued that Villaraigosa did not cave into animal rights extremists Instead, Ramallo countered that Villaraigosa tried to work with Stuckey, but this guy was not up to the job. Absolutely false. And in fact, up to November of 2000, it was the mayor's position publicly that Stuckey was doing his job, that it was a job being done consistently with the agenda that the mayor had, and that Stuckey was a guy that belonged on his team. Again, the statistics bear that out. The mayor is simply wrong and has pretextually terminated him. We ask that the City Council reinstate Mr. Stuckey to his position. I would ask also, Mr. President, that Mr. Stuckey be allowed to have a few words.
Okay. We prescribed 10 minutes. We'd be happy to hear from you, Mr. Stuckey, but because your council used up most of that time, if we can make it 2 minutes, would that be enough time? Okay, thank you very much. Set the timer, please, for 2 minutes.
Mr. President, thank you. And council members, good morning. For those of you that don't know, before coming to Los Angeles, I was the Director of Neighborhood and Community Services in the city of Rockville, Maryland for 2.5 years. In the summer of 2004, I applied for and was selected as General Manager for Animal Services. This was the culmination of a national search. The thought of this undertaking to my normally quiet wife was, "You must be nuts." And although she had some other comments, I certainly wouldn't read those into the record. But for once I shared my vision of the possibilities the position offered, her support was unwavering. I wanted the chance to see if I could turn the department around, a department with numerous challenges. I envisioned this as an opportunity to do what my predecessors had not done, namely, address the animal overpopulation issue while developing a departmental culture for animal services that employees and partners embraced. As a manager with many years of experience working in other municipalities, my specialty has been turning around departments that were not performing well. In November 2004, I was hired under Mayor Hahn's administration and was told by his deputy mayor, as long as I did my job, I did not have to worry about anything. He also added, "You'll be in this job as long as you want to." To me, this meant that as long as I performed satisfactorily, my job was not in jeopardy. This is something I stated publicly in the article that Mr. Lear shared with you earlier. Also, in that article and others, I made it very clear that I knew that my primary responsibility was to make Los Angeles a no-kill city. I was given 36 months to accomplish the no-kill goal, and my accomplishments and performance were consistent with that objective. Even when the newspapers reported that candidate Villaraigosa stated that he would fire me when he became mayor, I stayed focused on my primary responsibilities of becoming a no-kill city. The fact that euthanasia rates are the lowest they've been in the last 4 years indicates all animal services employees and me continue to do our jobs. Consequently, Mayor Villaraigosa stating that I did not do my job as reason for my termination is not supported by the facts. On the contrary, the numbers prove otherwise. You've already heard the long list of some of my accomplishments during my 13-month tenure. The fact that 50% of the department's employees signed a letter of support is another indicator that we were doing a good job. They understood and fully supported our objective of becoming a no-kill city. They embraced the direction the department was taking to
Excuse me one
achieve
second,
that
Mr.
end.
Stuckey. Mr. Cardenas, would like to move to extend that?
Ask that he be given more time to finish his
Okay.
statement.
There's no objection.
Thank you, sir.
Please, go ahead.
Although I have read newspaper accounts that the mayor met with the current general manager of animal services 3 times over a 6-week period prior to hiring him, as well as with members of the ADL, the mayor never once met with me. Let me reiterate, the mayor never met with me during my tenure to discuss his vision for the department or any concerns he may have had. As far as I knew, given the mayor's silence, my performance was fine. Indeed, my performance was fine, but this job has had extraordinary challenges. Even before my official start date, staff from LAPD met with me to brief me on the acts of violence that have been perpetrated against the staff. They emphasized their concern for my safety. They even contacted the local police of the city my wife was living in to make them aware of the volatile situation. Unfortunately, this was to be the atmosphere during my tenure with the department. In addition to the job conditions, I cannot express to you the emotional toll that this took on my wife and me. Not being together because of my concern for her safety, this decision was compounded by the fact that she is a native Angelino and could not move back home. Imagine a world where, because of the work that you do, that you must live separately from the person that is the most important in your life. My first official day on the job began with a bomb threat. The harassment and intimidation by the activists was unrelenting. Staff had bricks thrown through their windows, profane graffiti sprayed on their homes on New Year's Eve. Even their children were threatened. Bomb threats at their homes and unceasing harassment. I'm here today to let you know that I gave my all for this job and more. I was absolutely focused on Los Angeles becoming a no-kill city. And except for 3 or 4 weekends, I worked 7 days a week visiting shelters on all 3 shifts, attending numerous community events. Even after receiving the mayor's request for resignation on that Thursday, I honored my commitment on that Saturday to be a guest speaker for a local rescue group's annual meeting. I never shirked my duties. And after all of my accomplishments and commitment, I get fired. That was my reward for doing a good job. In closing, let me say it's not fair and it's not right. This firing is a personal slap in my face and an assault on my career. Today, I'm asking for reinstatement. Again, I want to reiterate that neither the mayor nor his staff ever articulated to me that I had a performance issue. Never. If at any time the mayor could have shown me quantifiably that I was not doing my job, I would have gladly tendered my resignation voluntarily. As a matter of fact, on the day that I was asked to resign, the mayor's deputy chief of staff and the president of the mayor's staff council said that I had done a good job. And the reason for the request for my resignation had nothing to do with my performance, but it was a result of the need to deal with a very vocal constituency. So it seems that it was the level of acoustics, not my list of accomplishments, that has judged my tenure. It's not fair, and it's not right. In my tenure as general manager, I did all that was asked of me and more. I am asking for the opportunity to finish where I started. The critical question then becomes, what does fairness and righteousness mean to this council? Council members, you have been very gracious for giving me this opportunity to speak on this issue. And again, thank you for taking time to listen and to care.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stuckey. Why don't we take public comment at this time? We have 15 speaker cards, colleagues, so I'm going to ask the clerk to set the timer for 1 minute, which I know to the public is a bit quick, but it's the best way that we can ensure all 15 public speakers that have been asked to be heard can be heard. So Alvin Ross, if you'd like to come forward, followed by Milan Poses and Lois Newman will be the first 3 speakers. Please.
Mr. Garcetti, members of the council, fellow citizens, my name is Alvin Ross, and I'm not here to represent anyone other than myself and the animals that I see in LA Shelter. I volunteered at various shelter locations in the past year and a half or so, primarily at South Shelter, but also at organized park adoptions, also through various rescue organizations and veterinary clinics and so forth. And the volunteering that I have been doing has been in conjunction working with the shelter to place animals that have been abandoned, have been neglected, have been cast off by owners, by society, and the people who have taken them in are the people in the shelters. Rescue people then go and get them. The people in the shelters are, of course, employees, and we all know what can happen when employees are disgruntled and unhappy. I see that these employees are not, they're very satisfied with their management. They have only concern and compassion for the animals, and I would hope that you would reinstate their manager that would allow them to continue performing in this way.
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
Thank you very much.
Melanie Posses?
As a person involved in animal welfare on a daily basis, I have witnessed firsthand the changes in the shelters. I have seen the improvements in the manner in which the department does business and the greater level of staff accountability and accessibility. The presence of the staff of LA Animal Services today is representative of their respect for Mr. Stuckey, and I'd like to ask them to stand. That takes courage. That takes amazing courage, and it is an example of their respect for the leadership of Gurdon Stuckey. His influence on the staff is evident, and under his leadership, the staff has learned what accountability really means, the need to provide customer service excellence, and to demonstrate the compassion that our animals deserve. Public safety is one of the most important responsibilities of LAAS. The central issue is for the staff to protect the animals and the people, but who is protecting them?
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Lois Newman, to be followed by Mary Cummins and Mark Dodge.
My name is Lois Newman from the Cat and Dog Rescue Association. I have been a member of the humane community for over 25 years and understand the city the way it works. Under City Charter, Section 231, subsection C, the mayor has the right to appoint anyone he wants to a chief administrator officer. Under subsection E, he has the right to fire anyone. This is known as employment at will. According to Black's Legal Dictionary, employment at will is an employee-employer relationship that usually is undertaken without a contract and that may be severed at any time by any party without cause. Furthermore, the certificate of appointment, which is required by the city, by the mayor at that time, was a fraud. Mr. Stuckey has no training or experience in animal control, animal care, animal law, or shelter management. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Mary Cummins?
Hello, I'm Mary Cummins, President of Animal Advocates. I'm here today to speak against the reappointment of Gurdon Stuckey. Stuckey performed poorly. His appeal lists accomplishments which he had absolutely nothing to do with. He was told many times that he could be fired at any time for any reason. He even publicly stated himself that he could be fired at any time. On top of all of this, we've just been offered Ed Boakes as a new general manager. Whereas Stuckey had absolutely no experience and never even had a pet in his entire life, Boakes has 22 years of experience turning around large shelters in large cities. Ellie finally has a chance to be no-kill. Stuckey performed poorly. He gave the Spaymobile contract to the group with the lowest evaluation who had a bad track record, to Sam Simon. The person who ran that group was fired by the city due to fraud, forgery, and theft, yet this is a person that Stuckey hired. He ended up signing the contract for less than half of a number of surgeries that he was supposed to do. Parks even stated that they better do 7,000 surgeries or else they shouldn't be paid, yet they're paying them every month. He also repeatedly stated he could be fired at any time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cummins. Mr. Dodge, to be followed by David Diliberto, and Renee Jones.
Thank you. My name is Mark Dodge, and my wife and I and many other volunteers started a program in 1999 to spay and neuter feral cats in Los Angeles area. And to date, we've done about 8,000 of those animals, preventing millions more from coming into the population. We're a real organization doing real work, and as a consequence, we've had the opportunity to get to know the Department of Animal Services. I sent a letter to all of you dated December 21, a 5-page letter with exhibits stating forth my case. I'd like to refer to just one paragraph of that I think is important. Based on my personal knowledge, it is my impression that at the time of Mr. Stuckey's appointment, LAAS was suffering from many chronic ills, low morale, poor public image, substandard customer service, to name but a few. During his year in office, he has raised morale throughout the organization, inspired renewed commitment to the department mission, set higher standards of personnel performance, implemented many new and successful outreach programs, reduced youth and rates materially, and set in motion many new initiatives yet to be realized.
Appreciate your comments today. Thank you. David Diliberto.
Good morning, council members. My name is David Diliberto. I'm the Director of Field Operations for the Department of Animal Services. I'm here today on my own time speaking to you as a 35-plus year resident of the city of Los Angeles, and I just wanted to go on record by saying that Gurdon Stuckey did do a good job. He was the hardest working general manager that we ever had. He took a leaderless department and provided it with leadership, integrity, and core values. He was always out in the shelters, just as he indicated, meeting with his employees and listening to their concerns. He established a foundation for success that I believe will be utilized by new management to succeed. Our new interim general manager has commented to me repeatedly on how progressive our department and our programs are. For what he did by standing up tall for our employees, our department, and our city, Gurdon deserved better than what he received. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much. Renee Jones, our next speaker, to be followed by Christy Navarro.
Good morning. My name is Renee. I'm a Department of Animal Services employee. I'm here today to support Mr. Stuckey for the reasons that the mayor of the city of Los Angeles has committed a wrong, not only against Mr. Stuckey, but against the Department of Animal Services employee. When he came, there were a lot of issues that we had, and he helped us to come together, and he helped us to want to do our jobs and have pride in all of the work that we do. So I ask you to do the right thing and reinstate Mr. Stuckey, not only for us, but for the animals, for the lives of animals that we want to save. Thank you.
Thank you. Christy Navarro, to be followed by Karen Knipscher.
Hello, my name is Christy Navarro. I'm an animal care technician at the Harbor Shelter. I'd like you to all know that Mr. Stuckey has brought so much unity to our department. Our department was so much of a mess. We need someone like him to keep leadership with us. We have expanded so many more programs, adopted so many more animals out. Our little shelter is the smallest of all 6 LA City shelters. We average over 100 adoptions a month. That's because we take pride in our work and we have someone to lead us in the right direction. Please reinstate him.
Thank you. Karen Knipscher. And if I can ask the next few that I call forward just to line up behind so we can have a timely disposition. Nancy Moriarty, if you'd come forward as well, and Derek Brown, thank you. Karen, please.
Hi. Mr. Garcetti and City Council, I've been with the Department of Animal Services for over 16 years, and this is the first time that I've seen such an increase in morale where people want to come to work, they want to do their job, and they even put in their own time. Mr. Stuckey spends 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, working with us hand in hand to better improve this department, and he proved that by the statistics that they showed you. I just hope that you can reconsider his employment with this city and with this department, because we do really believe in him, and we believed in everything that he did for us. And Mr. Stuckey is one of the best managers that we've had, and we've been through a lot. I'm sure you're all aware of that. And we thought for once in the first time in our lives we had a point where we were on a train moving forward. And that train does not need to be stopped at this time, because we need it to move forward, because we are going to do bigger and better things with his help. So please reinstate Mr. Stuckey as our general manager.
Thank you very much. Nancy Moriarty.
Good morning, council members. My name is Nancy Moriarty. I'm the training officer with Animal Services. I've been a city employee with Animal Services for 26 years. During that time, I've seen 14 general managers come through, and this one general manager during a very trying time for us was the only one that stood up and made a difference and gave us our dignity back. And he brought that problem and the attacks that we've been under to your attention and brought your support into us. You've given us the support to go forward, to provide the kind of care that we need to bring to the city of Los Angeles animals, and we ask that you understand our situation in coming forward to you today, that we understand that the current mayor has the right to bring his own management team in, but we want you to clearly understand that this man made a difference in the lives of the city of Los Angeles people and their animals.
Thank you for your testimony. Derek Brown, to be followed by Gerald Dakey, excuse me if I mispronounced that, and Michelle Roach. If you come forward, please do.
Hi, members of the council. My name is Derek Brown. I've been in the department over 20 years. Mr. Stuckey came into this department and literally revolutionized the employees way of doing business, our thoughts, our attitudes. And when he first came in, he said, what's the best department in the city? Everyone said DWP, LAPD. He says, no, it's animal services, and don't you forget it. And it's never been the same since. I told my 9-year-old son that he got fired. He said, Dad, that's the best general manager you guys ever had. A 9-year-old knew that. And why he knew that was because he went to the mobile adoptions, met Stuckey, interacted with him, had a face. We have a vision. It's been harpooned. Please understand that this man has done more than any general manager has ever done in this department. I just hope you take the time to find out. Ask the employees. Nobody asked the employees. The mayor never checked with us. Please understand what's going on here. Please understand that this is a man who should be rewarded. Thank you
very much. We appreciate it. Mr. Dakey?
Greetings, Council. I basically come here as an observer. I've watched from the sidelines of where the Animal Services has been over the last 10 years. I worked for the city at one time, not in the Animal Services capacity. I was my chief over there for a while. I now work for a United States Department of Cabinet level status. I just would like to remind the people here to look into the actual reasons why Mr. Stuckey has been ousted. I would like you to also, I'd like to empower the council to investigate who is going to benefit from his removal, who is going to benefit from the money that is going to be put in from this person. We'll leave it unnamed at this time. I'm sure everybody knows who that is. But when you can pay and have who you want put in a position of power, it is a scary thing. And I want to empower this council to please look into it and please look at the long game instead of the short-term answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Roche will be followed by Angela Jackson and Julie Butcher.
Hello, my name is Michelle Roche. I am currently district manager at the Harbor Animal Shelter with Janice Hahn. I've started with this department 10 years ago and been through several different general managers through the time. And I started here to save animals' lives. And it's been difficult to do that up until when Mr. Stuckey had arrived, and he changed our mission statement to saving animals' lives. Everybody had a direction in knowing what we're going to do. For the first time, our entire department was unified, and we were all going forward doing the same thing. And it's hard to explain for somebody who's outside can't really see exactly what has happened, but it's nothing short of a miracle. So we would just like to continue to do that, and please reconsider bringing Mr. Stuckey back to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roche. Angela Jackson, and be followed by Julie Butcher and Liz Cava.
Good morning. My name is Angela Jackson. I'm an animal control officer with the Department of Animal Services. I've not been with the department as long as some people, but I have been there through 4 general managers, and this is the first person who has actually come to the shelters, made contact with the employees, has been very proactive. He came into this department. It was a mess. It's still a mess, but we're working on it. It has become better. He has come in under a lot of scrutiny and against a lot of people who, for their own personal reasons, do not want him here and do not want him to succeed. It has nothing to do with whether he can or cannot do the job. And it's true that if you look at the reasons why he is no longer our general manager, you'll see that it's unbased, and you have the opportunity to undo this wrong and to make right for the department. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Julie Butcher.
Good morning. Fact is that this department is run better now than it has been in at least the 18 years that I've been watching closely. I was standing at the back of council chambers a couple of weeks ago, and another general manager from another one of the 43 departments looked at me and said, "Who's next?" Let me strike the cautionary note that was raised during the charter debate about already wussy managers, sorry guys, being engendered to be even more susceptible to whim, to fashion, to whatever the current is. The fact is that the civil service process, tie goes to runner. Hiring from within makes the same kind of sense that a competitive bid does in letting a contract. I'm already reading now rumors on the website of Lunatics about who the next assistant general manager is going to be in this department. The fact is, again, there's a process. You all heard the conversation, oops, sorry.
I can ask you to
I urge you in the name of good government to just remember whether or not the votes are there today to keep Gurdon Stuckey. This will come up again and again, and I urge you to think about what the best way to run a municipal government is, and it's not by getting rid of somebody because people make a lot of noise.
Thank you, Ms. Butcher. Liz Cava, please. Be followed by Alexander Rubalcava and Phyllis Doherty.
My name is Liz Cava. I'm a North Hollywood resident, 91601. I'm a volunteer with Best Friends Catnippers. I'm the feral cat trapping coordinator. I'm here to support Gurdon Stuckey, the only man who met with us, the only general manager, actually listened to the plight of feral cats and was going to take action. I think the real issue here, and something that really, again, Catnippers has spayed and neutered 8,000 cats, preventing millions of kittens coming in to the shelters to be euthanized. The real issue here is that the mayor's ear was poisoned by the activist terrorist group ADL. One thing Catnippers will never do is throw bombs in people's living quarters, and we will never send Christmas cards with Santas dressed in Uzis crapping down chimneys. We will not do that, because what we do, we're in the trenches. We would ask that you listen to the people in the trenches and not the terrorist activist groups. And I'm very concerned that the mayor has done this. I don't know if you have the courage to go to their website. They're dancing for joy. They got what they wanted, and that's just not right. So I would ask you to please support Gurdon Stuckey however you can.
Thank you. Alexander Rubalcava.
Good morning, Council. My name is Alexander Rubalcava. From December until this past August, I was a member of the Commission of the Department of Animal Services, and Gurdon Stuckey reported directly to me. The employees have talked about the change in their perception of the department here. Mr. Stuckey's counsel has talked about many of the objective facts, many of the numbers that have changed in a positive way in this department. I would like to echo all of those, and the way I would like to echo all of those is to give you an anecdote about Mr. Stuckey's form of leadership. Mr. Stuckey, within 30 days of arriving at the department, changed the department's mission. He changed the job description of every person at the department so that they knew every action they took, every decision they made was guided by the principle of, is what I am doing today something that will save the life of an animal? The results of that change, the result of that policy and that philosophy are the support that you see today and the numbers that you see out in the streets today. Mr. Stuckey, during the term that I served with him, was tremendously effective, and I urge you to consider these requests from him and his council carefully. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rubalcava. And our last speaker is Phyllis Doherty. Ms. Doherty, please.
Phyllis Doherty. I'm with Animal Issues Movement. I'm speaking also as an individual and a former city employee for 16 years and someone who attends all of the commission meetings. I have not missed any of them. Mr. Stuckey, when they developed the focus committee to decide who should succeed Jerry Greenwald, it was the consensus of the humane community, with the exception of myself, that they should bring in someone with absolutely no animal experience. And of those that were willing to take on that kind of a responsibility, Mr. Stuckey, they believed, was the best qualified. We have to come from that point that we are not comparing him to people with animal control experience. These were the guidelines the humane community set. Within that guideline, Mr. Stuckey should have been treated with dignity and assisted. Instead, the commission insulted him. They ordered him to do things, and he was insulted for not doing what he was ordered to do. I'll finish quickly. I just hope that this will not become a precedent for how we are going to hire and fire our city managers.
Thank you very much. That closes our public comment on item 67. It's now time to hear directly from colleagues, starting with Ms. Gruhl.
Excuse me. Mine was a technical question as to whether or not we needed to go into executive session to discuss these items.
Mr. City Attorney?
Zena Houston is approaching the...
Okay. Madam City Attorney, please, if you can give us counsel and guidance on this.
closed session is only permissible under the threatened litigation exception to the Brown Act, which is very narrow, will not give the council members a lot of latitude for discussion, but that would be permissible under that limited exception. And if I may, Council President.
Yes.
Because of
Ms. Grove?
litigation? Was that what you said?
Threatened litigation.
Under the guise of threatened litigation, okay. Is there something like that?
On personnel matters as well, correct?
No, the personnel exception would not be permissible.
Okay.
If I may, Council
Yes, why
President,
don't you
I'd like to
expand on that a
go
little bit in the
through a
charter?
few
Yep.
pointers before any other questions are raised. General managers, as you all know, are at-will employees and are provided a process pursuant to the charter in the event of termination. The charter section that is provided, Section 508E, is exclusive and it's unique. It's a unique procedure. This is not a civil service process. We're bound by the confines of what the charter specifically expresses. No other procedure or process is available. Under Charter Section 508E, the council may, over the course of 10 council meetings, consider reinstatement of a general manager. Reinstatement requires 10 votes or a 2/3 majority.
If I can just pause there, colleagues, that's why we will have this on a continuation agenda for 9 more meetings, even if action is taken, because we still have the charter right to be able to act on it, even if we are to take action today.
That's correct. The council is not required to take the matter up for consideration and may cause the matter to lapse at the expiration of the 10 meeting days. Failure of the council to reinstate the chief administrative officer during this time period shall constitute a denial of the appeal. The council has heard from members of the public through a public hearing. The public hearing is now closed as of today, and the public the matter of the appeal, as President Garcetti has already indicated, may continue to be raised for the next 9 meetings. It will remain on the continued agenda, and the last day for the council to act on this matter would be February 1st.
Thank you. Ms. Gruhl, that's all the questions you had? Okay.
Ms. Hahn's going to ask some of the questions for
Great.
me. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Cardenas, to be followed by Ms. Hahn. Mr. Cardenas? Mr. Lamont, did you want to be put back on? Okay. And Mr. Cardenas, and then we'll take you up, Mr. Lamont.
Yes, I'd like the city attorney to continue sitting up here forward. Is Mr. Stuckey still in the room? Gordon Stuckey, could you please come forward and sit down? To the city attorney first, you said that public comment is now closed on this matter, but this council can in fact reopen public comment at any time when we have this matter before us and agendized, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Mr. Stuckey, I have some questions for you I'd like to have clarified. I've read too much of this in the press, and I'd like to hear it on the record here in these council chambers before this elected body. Your job expectations, your goals, requirements, under this current administration that has taken action on your position, have they articulated those goals and requirements to you? And if they did, when and how did they do that? Was it verbal? Was it written? My time, please.
They never articulated what their goals were.
Excuse me, my time, Mr. President. Thank you.
The mayor nor his staff never articulated any specific goals or objectives in email form, in written form, in any form or fashion. No direction for the department was ever communicated to me.
To you?
To me.
Okay. And when you say that, could it be said that somebody within that administration may have mentioned to you or what have you, but nothing formal?
We did have the understanding that the no-kill policy objective was the key item.
Okay. All right. But how about milestones, percentages by month or by year or what have you up until we get to a no-kill?
Absolutely nothing.
Oh, okay. Did you interact with anybody with the administration's office during the time that since July 1st to date?
Primarily Jim Pickard and Deputy Chief Jimmy Blackman.
Okay. And what you're saying is that you interacted with them too more than anybody in the mayor's administration, but those two individuals never articulated to you any formal objectives that they expected of you?
Never.
Okay. You mentioned that the attacks or threats began, when you got announced that you were being hired, the day you got here? When was it?
Matter of fact, they started prior to my coming to the city.
My time, please.
And continued through the confirmation process up until the day that I left the office.
Okay, so they continued up until the day that the public found out that you were just relieved of your duties?
That's correct.
Okay. Why did you decide to appeal to the council?
Because I thought that my termination was unfair. I didn't think that it was right. I thought it was founded on reasons not related to my performance, as all the data indicated. And I'm appreciative of this process and this time to bring this matter to the council's attention for consideration.
So I have to ask you this question to make it clear. You're saying at this moment in time, up to this moment, no one from the administration's office have articulated to you in writing or otherwise that your performance was not acceptable?
Not orally, not in any memo, not in any email, in no form or fashion was anything ever communicated to me by the mayor or any of his staff that I was not performing satisfactorily.
Have you, Mr. Stuckey, do you have in any form or manner your goals or your objectives for the department and for yourself?
What I did is I have a business plan that I developed that I did share with former administration and this one. And when I shared that document to the administration, I received no comment from them indicating that anything was wrong with the document or the direction that I was taking the department in. That document was shared with the new administration the first week of July.
Okay. And, okay, I was just going to ask you when. So the first week of July, you articulated those goals and objectives for the department and for yourself in writing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Who did you articulate that to?
That document was given to Jimmy Bickhart and Jimmy Blackman.
Okay. Now, the commission, which is appointed by the administration and the members are approved by this council, did the commission tell you at any time that you were not doing your job or that you were not meeting the objectives of the department?
Never. They never communicated any document to me to do that. Matter of fact, on numerous occasions, I outreached to them to say, let's get together and identify some strategic guidelines so that we are having a shared vision relative to the direction of the department. And in those email communications, I received no response.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cardenas. Mr. Labange, to be followed by Ms. Hahn and Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Madam City Attorney, the charter, well, first of all, Gordon Stuckey, thank you for your service to Los Angeles. And I know it's very difficult when you mentioned in your remarks about family life, and all of us have challenges wherever we are, and I know it's very difficult, so I express a feeling of sympathy for that aspect of it. I think all of us at some times, whether it's, but to a greater degree, I think in your position it is. And thank to your staff and the public who's come down, who've expressed their opinion on this issue. But in the charter, if I could just ask, it states specifically that you serve at the will of the mayor. Is that correct?
That's correct. Specifically, Charter Section 508B states that no chief administrative officer appointed under this section shall acquire any property interest in employment in that position.
Now, this is kind of new to us, even though it's been around since the new charter, 99, is that correct? And it's being implemented more by this administration than the previous administration. And Councilor, on your remarks when you spoke, you used a great word, team. And I think you did. Is that correct? You remember you used the word team? Yes. And that means the team, the coach of the team selects who plays on the team, you know, and unfortunately, and I'm just saying that from the charter because I want to stand, I support employees of Los Angeles who work hard, but understanding the function of how this has changed, and I've been here 31 years, and it's changed drastically in the sense of how the system is stated, that they have a position that all general managers, and I don't know if there is, maybe the city clerk would know because they know everything. I think Sid Khan Howe retired. There's no general manager left underneath the previous charter at this time, so this is new on this issue, Gordon. So it's very difficult because I believe in structure. The coach says, you play, you don't play. And that's kind of how it goes, and the city attorney says, this is what the charter says on that. And you use reference to the team, which I think is the mayor has a right to select, quote, his administrative team, which is a transformation to what Los Angeles was in the past, where there was some independence between general managers and the governing body of the city of Los Angeles. So I wanted to stand for you. I hope there's some discussion. You asked Ms. Gruhl about executive session. I would like to have some direction from either city attorney that at some point we could go in an executive session to discuss this option here, because I think it not only affects you, but as Ms. Butcher mentioned, 43 other general managers, and I'm sure there's over 150 positions, I don't know what that is, that are civil service exempt now based under the new charter, that how we see things. So I appreciate that. If you have a PowerPoint that you want to hand copy, because it wasn't as clear to see it, that I appreciate the work that you have done, but I wanted to express that.
Thank you, Mr.
Also
LeBon.
say there is a reality of that. Thank you, Mr. President.
And just to quickly respond to the council member, while we recognize that there is a charter, as I pointed out in the PowerPoint presentation, there were certain representations that were made to Stuckey. Any legal action that we would take would be reliant on those legal representations to Mr. Stuckey that essentially stated to him that he has a job with the city as long as he performs, our position being that he did perform.
But if there's a new coach, and the new coach says, hey, you can't play quarterback.
We should avoid some of the direct discussion of this,
understand.
but appreciate the comments. And thank you for your point, Mr. LeBonge. Ms. Hahn is our next speaker, and then Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you. New President, Eric Garcetti. You know, this is a tough situation. This is a very tough situation. I think Dennis Zine was the one who put that in the charter about the mayor having the ability to fire at will. Although, you know, that, and Julie Butcher will remember during the charter debate, that was one of the key issues that we argued about for a long time, and there was a lot of give and take about whether or not we should give a mayor this kind of authority to hire and fire at will. But the fact of the matter is, Section 508 says that. I'm here today to say that, Mr. Stuckey, I think you have been a fine general manager of the Department of Animal Services. I think you came into this job facing enormous challenges. But I personally, and I don't know how many of my colleagues have had the opportunity to really work with you. I've had some unique situations happen in the last year in terms of animals. One being the notorious alligator in Harbor City. And I want you to know that your department and your officers who never dealt with an alligator before have really risen and gone way beyond the job description of an animal control officer in terms of trying to deal with that issue. And I salute you, and I salute all your officers and all your department staff in terms of how they have been able to meet that demand. I've also worked with you closely on the new animal shelter that we're going to have in San Pedro that's going to be a state-of-the-art animal shelter. And you and I even talked about making that a pilot program to be a no-kill shelter. And we talked about how that would be a great idea to have one shelter that we could really look at and make a pilot program to meet. And you were the one that said that was something we would achieve. I've worked with you in Watts, where we have had an enormous problem with stray dogs and wild packs of dogs that roam Watts and scare the children and scare the elderly. You've worked with me. I was out there Monday with the mobile spay-neuter clinic, encouraging people to come in and have their dogs and cats spayed and neutered. You have been a fine, fine manager. You have been a gentleman. I, for one, apologize to you for the incredible treatment that you received at the hands of terrorists. No one who comes to work for the city of Los Angeles should fear for their life. No one who comes and is a dedicated employee, and we have thousands of dedicated employees in the city of Los Angeles. No one deserves to have their life threatened. No one deserves to have bombs thrown into their apartment. No one deserves to have that kind of treatment, and we apologize to you for that. You did not deserve that. And unfortunately, I don't think you deserve to be fired, but unfortunately, You know, that is the system we have. This mayor can make those decisions. He has a right to bring in his own team. I don't think it's fair. A lot of things aren't fair. But I want you to know that from the bottom of my heart, I am a grateful member of Los Angeles community. I am a grateful councilwoman because I think you have served us in such a great manner. And in no way, in my opinion, do I think that you did not do exactly what Mayor Hahn hired you to do.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn. Our next speaker is Mr. Rosendahl, to be followed by Ms. Perry. Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you, Mr. President. Congratulations on being our president, starting the meeting on time. Appreciate that very much. Fortunately, I have now speaking right after Tom LaBonge and Janice Hahn. Tom is known for his people skills and supporting government workers. He knows more people than all of us around the horseshoe combined who's working in our government in one form or another. And Janice Hahn's passion for the work you've done in a leadership position in that department, we congratulate you for that. Congratulations for that. Frankly, I got one of those discs at my home address, that showed some issues at the department, and I frankly will never be intimidated by anybody under any circumstances, and I want to apologize for those actions of people who have gone over the line as far as I'm concerned with your personal safety and with the issues you face. But if I could ask the city attorney one more time what my colleague Tom LaBonge asked. The termination of a department head has nothing to do with competency or anything else. It's the pleasure of a mayor, as the charter has said.
That's correct.
So in other words, we're not questioning your capability. We're just saying that we, the people, in charter reform, gave the mayor the power to do that. Is that right?
That's correct.
So there's really no issue here for us to talk about. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ms. Perry.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. Stuckey, prior to being elected in 2001, I was a staff person in the 9th Council District, so I've had the unique position of seeing the very serious problems of stray and packing dogs in the 9th District, and in particular in South Los Angeles, Watts in the 8th District. And as Janice has alluded to, it is a very serious and very real problem. In addition to that, the illegal breeding of pit bulls and dogs for fighting is a situation that runs rampant through the district. And I've seen a number of general managers before you arrived, and I can tell you firsthand that you have been incredibly responsive, diligent, on point. Your staff seems to have been lifted up by your very presence. It's a much beleaguered department, largely due to the activities of one particular group in the activist community that I would say more often than not steps over the line of freedom of speech in terms of harassment and overt or implied threatening behavior, not just to some of the council members. I mean, I am now on their website under their target section as a target because I took a tape of dogs being euthanized that was sent to my home and turned it over to threat management for LAPD, and I guess they didn't like that. And then I received a copy of the broadcast of the Santa with an Uzi and sending some of us a Christmas present. I don't know how most people would take that, but I take that as a threat. So I want to tell you firsthand that I appreciate your service and that you have done a good job. And statistically, not only did you track it, I tracked it through our own, I tracked it also through our own software program in office. And I just wanted to say that publicly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Perry. Our final speaker is Mr. Cardenas.
I have a question for the city attorney. You just articulated a few minutes ago that the mayor has the authority to hire and fire at will of department heads.
Yes.
Did you purposely omit the fact of the matter that this body does or does not have any authority in the hiring or firing of department heads?
No, I didn't purposefully
Okay,
omit
what authority
anything.
does this body have, this legislative elected body have in hiring and firing of department heads within the city?
Well, in terms of the hiring process, you're part of the confirmation.
My time, please. I'm sorry.
And as part of the hiring process, you have a role in the confirmation of general managers, and relative to the termination, you have the authority to reinstate with 10 votes.
Oh, okay. That's what I meant. I think, with all due respect, I think that's a more complete answer as to why we actually have this item on the agenda here, and we're actually taking up the time of this elected body and the public and you, and Mr. Stuckey is exercising his ability to appeal, because this appeal process, in fact, holistically shows the public that our charter does in fact have provisions that the mayor has the authority to initiate. But it's this body that has the ability to, we'll call it intervene or interact, and also change or have an effect on the outcome, correct?
Well, yes, and you may recall in my initial discussion, I stated that the council members by 10 votes or 2/3 majority could reinstate, and that is pursuant to Charter Section 508, specifically 508E.
Okay, good. I'm glad that we're having those two comments or those two items articulated back to back, because it's good for us to understand why we're even here, because in isolation of that one comment that the mayor has the authority to hire and fire without the bookends of articulating Section 508, it really sounds like we're here kind of just, you know, shooting the breeze or throwing comments out in the wind. I'm not talking to you directly about that. What I'm saying is we have people viewing, perhaps hundreds or thousands of people. I just wanted to be nice and slow and methodical about why we're even having this discussion. Plus, we have people in this audience, perhaps dozens of people who aren't even here on this item. So I think it's very important that we make it very, very clear that this is a very, very important matter that we're discussing, and it's a procedure that is afforded this body, this elected body, and that's why we're here. Mr. Stuckey, I have a question for you, albeit it might sound a little tongue-in-cheek, but it is serious. Do you own a dog or a cat or an alligator?
Not currently.
Okay. My point is this. I have at times have had a pet in our household, currently a cat, but the fact of the matter is, whether or not I own pets or have pets in my family has not dictated whether or not I'm a good legislator or a good policymaker on whether or not animals deserve the proper attention, respect of life, etc. And that's why, Mr. Stuckey, I would be remiss if I didn't tell the public how well your department handled the fact that we finally have an animal cruelty task force for the first time in the city of Los Angeles that now is not just protecting people from animals, but we're finally on the road to protecting animals from people in the city of Los Angeles. And I must say that because your department worked so well with the police department and other departments in my office and this legislative body and the mayor's office to make that happen, that it was somewhat effortless. And I just wanted to compliment you and the department on that. And that's why, Mr. Labange, that's why we're here. Because you were elected by certain voters. I was, every single member of this body, and the mayor was elected by the entire city of people who chose to vote. And with that balance of responsibility, that's why we're here, and that's why I'm going to recommend to this body that we table this item and that we give it ourselves an opportunity to learn more about how we arrived at this point, about the efforts and the energy and the commitment that this particular department head has had with this department and how it's affected the city, positive or negative, so we can really make a good decision, not only about the life and the reputation of an individual, but also about the responsibility that 40,000 people give to this city every single day when they come to work. I think that is the respect that this issue deserves
Thank you.
For Mr. Stuckey and for the entire city and all the people we represent.
We have, just as a point of clarification, Mr. Cardenas, if we can please conduct business. Thank you. Just to clarify, would you like to, is that a motion to continue
Yes, correct.
for one meeting or for?
That we continue it at least for a week.
For 1 week. So that would be, what's the date of that, Madam Clerk?
Okay. A week would be January 18th, but I believe the city attorney has opined that that needs to be on the council agenda.
It'll still
every day.
remain on the council agenda, so the action, to clarify, would be to postpone action on it today?
Yes.
Be to take no action, okay.
Correct.
Is there a second on that? Ms. Hahn seconds that, okay. Mr. Weiss and then Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Mr. President. I first want to acknowledge Mr. Cardenas. I know, and I want the people here today who are so concerned about these issues to know, if you don't know already, how strongly and consistently Mr. Cardenas has worked on these issues over the years, especially the Animal Cruelty Task Force, to ensure, hopefully one day, we're going to have a city where these laws are actually enforced criminally, because the way some people behave towards their animals is criminal and ought to be considered a criminal matter. I know of your personal dedication to that issue. And while you're right, the issue of whether one owns a pet or not isn't actually relevant to making a public policy decision here. I do want you to know that I own a dog, and he's a rescue. And as a family, we're personally, as a family, pleased that Newton is a rescue. And it's been a good exercise for my kids to go through, to understand that that's why Newton is with us. I do want to ask you, Ms. Houston, why you're with us today, though, and understand a little bit more about procedurally what precisely is before us today.
Precisely what's before you is the ability to reinstate a general manager, specifically Mr. Stuckey.
No, but precisely the matter before us, it's an appeal, as I understand it?
It's the consideration of his appeal for reinstatement. And under the charter, the role of the council members would be to take that matter under consideration, and the action that's available to the council members under the charter section is to reinstate or not to reinstate. Failure to act would be to deny the appeal.
And failure to act by the end of the 10th day.
Of the 10th day, which is February 1st.
So to approve the appeal, to deny the appeal, or an inability to act over the course of 10 days would constitute, in a sense, a denial of the appeal.
What you can affirmatively do is to
approve or
to
deny,
vote.
is to vote, to approve or deny the bill. And Mr. Labange asked you some really great questions earlier, but if I could just ask you to briefly synopsize those responses again with respect to, first of all, the at-will nature of this type of employment.
General managers are at-will employees, which means they can be terminated for no cause, as long as the reasons for termination are not discriminatory or for some illegal purpose. The mayor does have that right, unlike the civil service system, which would require a different process for employees.
And is that a matter of charter, just as this is a matter of charter?
Yes.
Is that at-will nature of employment a fundamental matter of the city's charter?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And a few moments ago, you in again response to Mr. Labange's questions, you mentioned how general managers do not have a property interest in their employment. Could you once again tell us what that means?
Well, I would analogize it to the civil service process. Before a civil servant may be deprived of a property interest in their employment, they're entitled to a due process hearing, which is commonly known as the Scully process, meaning that they are entitled to have a notice of the charges against them, the documentation that's in support, and they have an opportunity to respond either orally or in writing. If they choose not to respond either orally or in writing, then the Scully officer who has been appointed to hear that matter would deem that process completed and would move forward with making a recommendation. Unlike that scenario, pursuant to the charter specifically provides for what the procedure is for a general manager to appeal their termination. And that appellate process, if you will, is to come before this body and to seek or request reinstatement.
And
And
so,
the-
as I understand it, tell me if I'm wrong, as a matter of law, and it is this body's obligation to follow the law and follow the law of the charter, general managers are at will, they do not have a property interest in their position, and they are not entitled to severance pay. Is that correct? Is those correct statements of the law?
The charter does not address severance, and so I would not include the notion of severance within my discussion of the charter.
Is there a right to severance that you know of?
There's no right to severance. The city cannot just simply give money without any other context, a contract consideration. If purely money is given without there being a claim,
That's a gift
an
of public
issue to resolve, that would be a gift of public funds.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss.
Pursuant to all of that, I would move today that we deny the appeal.
Is there a second to that motion? Second from Mr. Rosendahl. Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask and support what Mr. Cardenas said earlier. I don't have the ability to be prepared to make a final decision today, particularly since we have till February 11th, I think the date was given.
February 1st.
February 1st, that we extend this for at least a week or take the full amount of time. I'd also ask, Mr. President, that we go in closed session to talk about some issues that I think are fairly relevant in the potential of litigation, even though it's not been articulated. There's certainly the potential, and I think we need to know that. Also, I would hope that we'd have access to the General Manager Personnel Department to talk about other issues that could come into this discussion. So those are things that I'd recommend. Mr. Stuckey, I have to also say that in the 8th District, you certainly have been very, very considerate of dealing with the issues for us. But again, having stood in a similar position, it's an issue in which the mayor does get to make changes. And so that's what at will means. And I think that's the consideration is, these are the same things I think those who were opposed to the charter change at the time articulated, that we're going to go through this windmill of general managers, and was that healthy? People said, well, no, it's going to give us more accountability, and that debate is still alive and well. But I think it also gives us an opportunity over the next week, if we extend that time, for all of us to get a better sense of where we are on this issue, so that you get the fairest hearing as possible. And again, as fair can be, because in this whole political framework, fairness is subjective. And also in this framework, we have these guidelines that we're going through. And I think in general, the sense that I get from many of my colleagues is that no matter how you personally feel about an individual, the mayor does get a chance to bring in people that he has a comfort level with and a change of direction. And whether it was in a sense unartful as Ray is in the sense of discussing qualifications, it still says in the charter by right and by will, and so those are things I think we all have to grapple with. But I don't think many of us are prepared to deal with that today, and I would hope that we would continue that and for a period of time, allowing all of us to digest information, but also taking a moment in closed session so we can talk on the legal issues from our city attorney and also our general manager personnel, so that we can get additional insight. And the city attorney is appearing a little concerned about that, very narrowly focused, not a broad discussion about other issues, but just the issue of potential litigation would allow us to get in that closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. We have two more speakers. Colleagues, let me just clarify what we have on the table. We have a motion to go into closed session. If we did do that now, it would be my suggestion we retreat to executive chambers behind us because of the number of people that are here for other matters. There's also been a suggestion from a council member we do that after we dispense with other matters, just to give you your options. We have a motion for action to deny the appeal, and it was out of order based on my suggestion before to have a motion to continue. We just don't take any action, and it is with us next Friday. If we don't take any action, this Friday. If we don't take any action this Friday, it's with us Tuesday, Wednesday. It will be with us even if we do deny, or even if we were, the only way it would not be is if we were to reinstate. Otherwise, it stays with us. So those are the options that will be before us. We have Mr. Smith and then Mr. Lavange. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. President. Truly, the dilemma we face today is an extraordinary one that we've never had to face before, and I presume we will face again around these chambers. Mr. Stuckey, I got to say to you, I have never seen a department where so many people came forward and stood up for a general manager. For that is truly a testament to you and those employees who are willing to stand for you. That is extraordinary and truly something to be commended for. The dilemma I face is the word at will. Within each one of our offices, we have at-will employees. And if I wanted to fire one of them, how would I feel if someone came in from another council office or the mayor and said, you shouldn't be firing that person, that's a good person? How do I deal with that? I'm struggling really with this whole issue of at-will. The mayor has been empowered by the people of LA to make those determinations. Madam City Attorney, the mayor could say to Mr. Stuckey, I don't like you, I don't like your breath, I don't like the way you dress. That's reason to fire him under that charter, is that correct? He has that ability to say, I just don't like you, go away?
He does not have to have a reason
Doesn't have to have a
or
reason.
cause.
Just as none of us do in our offices. We don't have to have, we have at-will employees, we can say, you know what, I made a mistake, I just don't like you, you're doing your job, but you're fired. And we have that right. So we have given that mayor that right. We've also been given the responsibility of council that we can override them under extraordinary circumstances if we choose to. The problem I have and the dilemma I have today is, which side of that equation do I fall upon? Do I fall upon the side that says, as a public official, I have the responsibility to say, this general manager I think is doing a good job? Or do I have the responsibility to say to the mayor, the people have entrusted you with the power to fire those general managers when you believe they should go because you want to build your own team. And you, Mr. Mayor, must stand before the 4 million people of this city when you run for re-election and answer to those people why you made those actions. Whether it be a chief of police, general manager of animal services, or whatever department, you stand before the people of this city and you have to tell them why you did what you did. And they're the ones that make that decision, just as each one of the 15 of us must do that as well. And so when I look at this is a tremendous dilemma. And I can tell you today, I am really pulled, quite frankly, which side of this equation I must fall on. And so I want to support Mr. Cardenas' motion to give us some time. I have to think this out. It's a tremendous burden that has fallen upon us, but that's what we're here to do. And so I appreciate Mr. Cardenas' plea to the council to give us some time to think this out, because there are two very good arguments. And again, to the people of this department, thank you for standing up for General Manager. That is extraordinary, and I really respect all of you for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our last speaker on the queue right now is Mr. Labange.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Smith, thank you. Mr. Parks, what you said, thank you. I think, members, I'd just like to ask, I don't know, Mr. Weiss, if I could, because you made the motion, that you would withdraw your motion in the interest of fairness, that as Mr. Carter suggested, a week, and as Mr. Parks suggested, have the general manager of personnel. I think you know all our feelings and the great appreciation that was given to your employees. As Mr. Smith said, it's come down. And as Ms. Hahn said, of the work that you've done, that's fine, but there is a charter and there is a statement and there is the team. You used it, Counselor, so I'm going to use it again. As Greg said, you know, we're all in that. If you could withdraw that so that we could then schedule to have, with the city attorney's permission, an executive session with the personnel director of Los Angeles so we could know this, because this is something that's very important and we want to be fair. Yes.
May I
Yes, Mr. Weiss.
respond to your request with respect to that request and Mr. Cardenas' motion? I will do that if we can agree as a body that that will be the day we vote, and that we don't, I understand under the charter we have the authority to vote over 10 days, that will stay with us, but if we can agree that we will have the full, complete consideration that folks want to have that day.
Well, I agree we could agree that we could do that, but I can't guarantee everybody's going to vote that way, but I would think everybody would. That takes away the First Amendment, right?
Get it done that day?
Everybody.
Okay.
We hope
If we
so.
have agreement on that, let me clarify then.
There may be other facts
If we,
that would come forth.
so if we withdraw that motion, there is no formal motion, just to clarify again. I had bad advice to Mr. Cardenas. There's no motion that we can take to continue. It stays with us, so this will come back on Friday. My suggestion then would be that we hold this on the table and it will appear on the continuation agenda Friday, if that's the will of the body. Any objection to that?
We want to make sure the personnel director is available
Yes, with that
And the
instruction
city
to have
attorney says
Personnel
it's okay to go
Director here as well.
executive
Mr. Parks?
I would just like to ask that we not shorten our time. If we have till February 1st, allow us to use the February 1st, and then we
That
then know.
stays with us. We don't have to say what day we're going to do, but we'll ask the Personnel Director to be here on Friday.
We can ask them, hopefully today.
Right, and we have the right on Friday to say no action will be taken today?
Yeah. But
As
I
well.
would not want to limit our time from February 1st if
Yeah,
that's...
we can't limit our time per the charter. We will have that till February 1st unless we reinstate. Yes, Mr. Smith?
Point of order.
Sure.
I want to know why the Personnel Director has anything to do with this matter, because it's not a civil service position, and Personnel Department has nothing to do with this at all.
Mr.
It's
Labange?
important, Mr. Smith, because this represents a general manager. I want to know about the change. I want to know if there's any existing general managers that are on the old system. I want to know about any AGMs that are on the old system. I want to know everything to make the right decision and be fair, that's all.
Okay. Mr. Parks, did you want to clarify anything else?
Ditto.
Okay. All right. If there's nobody else wishing to be heard, this item will appear before us on Friday. Thank you all very much, and we appreciate your attention to this matter. I'd like to recognize Mr. Rosendahl. We have a visitor, esteemed visitor in our chambers today from another democracy in the world. The U.S. ambassador from Mongolia is with us, seeing our vigorous exercise of democracy. If I can please ask folks as they go out to please wait to talk until they are out of chambers so that we may have this presentation, and if we can please ask the folks from the last item to move to the side, we would appreciate that very much so that we can afford the utmost respect to the United States ambassador from Mongolia. Please, Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you, Mr. President. The ambassador from Mongolia is visiting us here in Los Angeles. This is a major moment for the Mongolian community as well as it is for all of us in Southern California. As you know, Mongolia has a population of approximately 3 million people and is landlocked between Russia and China. A third of the people are nomadic, and 2/3 are basically living in the capital city. In Los Angeles, in Venice, we have a foundation that has a relationship with the country of Mongolia. The ambassador is here to look at business opportunities, health issues, and other considerations. We welcome him to our great city, the city of multiplicity here and ethnic diversity, and I'd like to have him not only get the certificate, which I'm presenting to him right now, folks, but I also want to give him an opportunity to speak for a second or two, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Please, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor for me to be this morning with you just after this heat debate. But my presence has nothing to do with it. I am the ambassador in the United States representing the country which called Mongolia, which just mentioned sandwiched between two big giants, namely China and Russia. Also, I am the representing one of the young democracies, as well as one of the ancient countries in the world. So why I'm here? The answer is just simple. Because the bilateral relationship between the Mongolia and the United States is getting more stronger and stronger. Also, the Mongolian community in the city is growing. So please accept the most warm welcome and wishes of the prosperity on the behalf of the Mongolian people extended to the citizens of the Los Angeles through all of you. I am come here just to seek the opportunity in terms of the business contacts, in terms of the cultural cooperation, in terms of the people-to-people the exchange between the Mongolia and the city Los Angeles. So my government asked me to start the opportunity also to open the Mongolian Consul office in the Los Angeles very soon. So thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. It's an honor to have you representing the country of Mongolia here in our chambers, and we thank you for gracing us with your presence today.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Labange. We have been asked to take up item 86 for the noon hour, so let's go ahead and take up item number 86 and recognize the chair of the committee First, for this matter, Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you very much. Can we have the representatives of LAWA forward, please? Thank you very much. We have the director of LAWA here, members, and I'd like to ask her, the first question I'd like to ask her, because I think some of my colleagues are a little concerned that because this is the south runway, we're all concerned about incursions or what have you. There is a goal and an expected deadline as to when this runway is going to be completed, and I wanted to make sure that we get out in the open on the record. If this body exercises its responsibility and authority and goes forward with a 245 so we can have a policy discussion on this particular issue in the policy committee, and I'm prepared and ready to agendize this in a policy committee on Friday morning. We'll move it to the council, have a placeholder on council this Friday, 2 days from now, and then LAWA will have all of their ducks in order and they can go and pursue the construction of the south runway, the improvements. And that's what this matter is. Ms. Kennard, if we were able to do that, and I can promise you everything that I can in my power as a councilman and the ability to use my authority and the rules within this body to have the meeting on Friday morning, the council will have the discussion just like we're having right now and dispose of this matter and have a vote on it. And I anticipate the vote will go just fine so that LAWA can go forward, I expect. I haven't checked with my colleagues. I'm not violating the Brown Act. I'm just telling you my feelings. If we were able to do that, would that cause a problem for LAWA?
First of all, Councilmember Cardenas, I really actually appreciate you bringing this matter to the full council and potentially to committee, because this is a very large, complicated project, and I think it warrants the attention of the entirety of the council. It has significant impacts in the near term in terms of its construction impacts at the airport, but most significantly, the completion of this project has very important safety implications for the airport and for the 60 million people that go through LAX every year. So to your question about a 2-day delay, no, it will not impact the construction schedule.
Okay, thank you. Council colleagues, I just want to remind you, the director of LAWA, who's very involved, and when you look at the documentation of how they've actually followed through with this particular contract that they're awarding, in the process of awarding and finalizing via this council of the City of Los Angeles, that for us to be able to deal with this and have some good policy discussion on this matter within our body by Friday, dispose of it through this council by Friday, is not going to cause delays. It's not going to incur any danger to the passengers that already exist or what have you. Heaven forbid anything should happen yesterday, today, or tomorrow, or 6 months from now. The bottom line is, I just want you to understand that I think it's important that when we have a contract this size, what's the magnitude of the contract, by the way, in round numbers?
It's $241 million.
$241 million. And this particular contractor that was awarded was deemed competent and to be awarded, and also what was the difference between their bid and the second place bid?
Approximately $50 million.
About $50 million. So believe me, colleagues, there's no agendas here to change who the contractor is or what have you. But I think it's important for me to remind you, because you don't want to read about it in the papers, that we were delinquent and asking tough, good questions, appropriate questions about this particular contract and the contractor that they're hiring. It was LAWA that just months ago completed a contract that actually made the press and got our attention. We had hearings in policy committee, et cetera, at the Van Nuys flyaway with this particular contractor that came within inches of being taken off the job. I don't mean to cast any aspersions, but that's as well as I can articulate it. So I think it's very important that we do our due diligence and make sure that LAWA is tying the knot on this one properly and tightly enough to make sure that it's being methodical, they're following through, they're making sure that everything's going to be done for the safety of the passengers at LAX because of the south runway and how important this is, and also for the process of making sure that when we get criticized for doing business with certain contractors, that we're not doing it willy-nilly, we're doing it because that's the appropriate and legal and responsible thing for us to do. And I think it's important that we're able to do that and articulate that to and fro with the department and the contractor. I would hope they'd be there in the policy committee on Friday morning so that we can all be rest assured that everything's going to go as well as humanly possible. So I would appreciate your support on this 245.
Thank you, Mr. Cardenas. Mr. Labange is our next speaker.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cardenas, I want to get this done, and I want the airport department and Lydia Kennard to move ahead. And my worry is, and I know it won't make a difference realistically, but I'm worried is there's big wings out there, and they need to widen this runway. 24L, is that right?
25 left.
25L. So I don't want to wait any time. I don't want to wait any time. I mean, there's been time on this. This contractor who had a problem at Van Nuys has had other successes as well, and that's for them to determine. And this particular process is a very heavy roadway for aircraft, heavy aircraft to constantly pound. And I just don't want to vote to stop this because I've followed this all along. I know, but you're stopping it right now. You're stopping it. They should be. What if this wasn't here today? Would these contracts be further ahead? Would we have been further ahead from when the time period when this was brought up?
Not substantially, but every day does make a difference. You are absolutely correct, Councilmember Labange.
Right. Would you want this continued 2 days?
It would be our preference to have the council ask us as many questions as you deem necessary today and move forward.
But what if I could ask Mr. Cardenas, why do you want to continue it 2 days? You know, I mean, why can't we do this now?
I got my button pushed. I'll answer all those questions when it's my time to speak.
Okay. Okay, I just want to say go forward and make Los Angeles International Airport safer. And go forward if you select this contract. It's reviewed by the city attorney. Look at it, the city attorney has reviewed it. City attorney's approved it. Okay, so that's how I feel. It's real important because I was in my car one night when, and I don't want to mention the aircraft, but when they came on top of each other. And there was a horrible accident at LAX. And it was a horrible feeling in the city of Los Angeles. And from time to time, there's stories in the paper, the horrible experience of people who have been involved with that. From time to time, there's a story in the paper where the pilots say LAX is not safe to land. Is that correct, Madam Director?
We'd like to suggest that it is safe, but we'd like to make it safer.
About the safer, but there is stories from time to time that say there's challenges at LAX.
There are certainly challenges.
So this relieves that challenge greatly.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rosendahl, be followed by Ms. Gruhl, Mr. Weiss, Mr. Smith, and then Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate this, and I appreciate speaking after Tom Labange because he made a couple of really good points about moving forward with this. Let me ask you this. We've seen the press, we've seen the stories about this group. What's the relationship between LAWA and the FAA and this project?
Well,
hold my time.
Let me first address the latter question about the relationship between this project and the FAA. The FAA has made it abundantly clear to LAWA staff, to the mayor himself directly. Secretary Mineta has had this discussion with the mayor and myself about the extraordinary importance that this project has to the safety of the South Airfield. It is an imperative. It is absolutely necessary that we move forward. Unfortunately, we are in a series of unfortunate events. We are in a low bid environment. Tudor Saliba was the low bidder. Has had challenges on our projects, have had challenges on other projects, but has been successful on others.
Explain the low bid environment and the FAA.
The FAA is a funder in part a funder for these projects, and because it is a funder, requires that we have sealed low bid and that we accept the low bid provided the contractor is deemed responsible. We have put that contractor through a process, and the city attorney is here to elaborate should you require, and he has been deemed responsible as per the regulations of that contractor responsibility.
Could we ask the city attorney to explain the process you went through to deem them responsible?
Well, excuse me, Eduardo Angeles, Managing Assistant City Attorney at the airport. Basically, procurement department is the one that makes the assessment when they've make this determination of whether the contractor is responsible. And we, along with them, have concurred that in this particular instance, that evaluation and in terms of the due process that was conducted by procurement was appropriate and has rendered this particular contractor responsible.
What about the allegations we've read in the press about this group and its behavior in the past?
Those considerations were actually one of the factors that were investigated. There was an opportunity, like in any circumstances or situation, an opportunity for a potential contractor to have a due process in that evaluation. We were given the opportunity to evaluate that and interface with the Tudor Group, and then based upon that evaluation, procurement made a determination that it didn't have enough or wasn't sufficient to render them non-responsible.
So how do we feel comfortable, Lydia, that they will do the job?
First of all, I'd like to address Councilmember Cardenas's concern about the Flyaway project. And with all due respect, this is a new team, and we have put in place some additional management of the construction. The city attorney has been very, very rigorous about the contractual requirements to Tudor, and our feet will be held to the fire. We cannot fail on this project. However, that being said, I want to caution everyone that this is a very complicated project. It's a very large project. There will be difficulties on this project, as they would be on any project of this size, even with the most perfect of contractors. So we will do the best we can to minimize those and deliver this project on time and on budget. But we're not here to defend Tudor. What we're here to do is to say to you, we have to go forward. If we were to take this project and reject the bids, go out and rebid, first of all, there would be no assurance that Tudor would not again become the low bidder. And second of all, we are in a very difficult construction bidding environment where costs are very, very inflated because of the Katrina factor, et cetera. There would be a high likelihood that these costs would not be as they are today under this Tudor contract.
All right, now there's two time factors we're dealing with here. One is safety, 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 safety. I've heard our mayor say it more than a half a dozen times that we're concerned about that south runway in terms of taxiing past it. Safety, safety, safety. And the second issue is April of 2007. The A380s want to come in to Los Angeles. Would you explain the constraints you're under?
Yes, this project, I want to be very clear, this project is not to enable the A380 to come to LAX. The A380 could come to LAX if it were ready to fly today. The concern about the A380 is that that runway has to be operational. Either we don't do this project at all, or we have it ready for April of 2007. When the A380 comes here. It's the most appropriate runway for the A380 to land on. So that is the A380 factor. The other is the safety piece. We have in the past led the nation in what they call runway incursions, which is the unfortunate conflict of aircraft on the airfield, which can cause catastrophic tragedies on the airfield. We want to avoid that at all costs. And from a staff position, we want to make sure that we are doing everything humanly possible to fix those safety concerns.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. Ms. Gruhl is our next speaker, and then Mr. Weiss and Mr. Smith.
Okay, sorry. I was very hard last time not to talk to, but I've not been a very big fan of 245s unless there really is a specific reason. I think clearly there have been concerns in the past about Tudor Salibas. Sorry. I may need extra time as I go through this about some of their performance at the Van Nuys Airport, and I appreciate what you indicated with that there's a new team. Because I had conversations with you a week or so ago about the importance of doing that. My question is, and I think I'm with Tom LeBond, is can we have the discussion today? Because if we don't think there's going to be a different outcome, if we can answer all the questions, let's go ahead and have that today. One of my questions, and I think Mr. sorry, this is hard, Mr. Rosendahl asked, which was, do we have to go with the low bidder? Which is the case, is that correct?
Yes, we do.
So the only options we have before us, really, if we 245'd it and made a recommendation to the commission, is that you would go back out to bid?
Yes.
Okay, so there's no other options?
And that would be a 6 to 8 month delay.
Okay, that is something I'm not interested in occurring, is having a 6 to 8 month delay on the issues of safety. And so whether it's a couple days or a week, we know the outcome is not going to change. My biggest issue is about ensuring that we have a contract that ensures that we have enough checks and balances so that if we have contractual problems, that the city is held harmless. And we talked about cost overruns. We talked about other kinds of maintenance and safety issues. Could you address that real quickly?
Yes, this is an airport-sponsored, FAA in part funded project. It is not at all subject to any portions of the general fund. It is not financed by the general fund, and the city is not liable for any cost overruns relative to the construction of this project.
But we do have, from the city attorney's perspective, language that protects us, even because I still feel the airport dollars are also my tax dollars, that we have enough checks and balances within there and language that protects us.
Yes, we have, as you've indicated, language that was appropriate that would allow us to be able to assert all of our legal rights if something should occur.
And did the commission, the commission held a hearing on this as well, correct?
Yes, they did. They spent at least an hour on this issue and had a lot of questions for Mr. Tudor as well.
So their concerns, many that we may raise today, were raised in the commission setting as well.
Absolutely, the commission holds your same concerns about this project.
So the preference of the LAWA staff and the commission is that we not 245 this item and that we let it go forward.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I may have other questions, but I'll press my button again. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gruhl. Mr. Weiss is next, followed by Mr. Smith and Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you. I want to echo what Ms. Gruhl said, although it'll be a louder echo.
It was said in...
How about that?
It was said in committee today that she sounds like she's making offers we can't refuse.
That's right. But to reinforce what Ms. Gruhl said, and we can delay it, we cannot delay it, but as we all know, Section 245 is a blunt instrument. It's up or down. There's no Section 245B which allows us to modify or impose additional conditions. Section 245 is up or down. So at the end of the day, all we can do with the legislative item that is before us is cancel this contract. And we can do that. We can do that. But that is all we can do. If we cancel the contract, then we're not talking about days. We're talking about months at a minimum, where there is further risk of planes running into each other. And we're talking about, you have to couch it, but I won't couch it. We're talking about the guarantee that millions upon millions, potentially tens of millions of dollars more, will have to be spent to do the precise work that's going to be done under this contract. And we have the guarantee that under federal law, you as an airport are required to award the contract to the lowest bidder. And we have, we can't say it's a guarantee, but it's at least 50% likely. It's probably, several degrees north of 50% likely that the same exact bidder who knows how to bid on these projects will come in and by necessity win the work again. The best and only thing that the city can do under this circumstance is what you've done, Ms. Kennard, is impose condition after condition upon condition on this contract. And the other best thing the city can do in this circumstance, colleagues, is what we've already done, which is hire Lydia Kennard to run the airport. We have in place at the airport the nation's preeminent person for doing precisely this kind of work. There is no one whom I would rather have riding herd on a troublesome contractor than you. You don't need us to tell you that that's your charge, but indeed that's what you're going to do. You're going to go over their performance with a fine-tooth comb. I have every confidence in you, and for that reason, Mr. Cardenas, I don't see how there is any other responsible option here other than to permit Ms. Kennard to go forward and manage this contract.
Thank you very much, Mr. Weiss. Mr. Smith?
Thank you, and I thank Mr. Weiss for pointing out the fact that on 245, at the end of the day, on Friday afternoon, when we vote again, we're going to vote yes or no on the contract totally. We can't tinker with it, play with it. So in that spirit, what Mr. Labange said, I want to make sure that the concerns were met. As I recall, the problems that we had out at Van Nuys with this contractor, one of which was the quality control. And I got your letter here. Unfortunately, I didn't really have a chance to read it to just now, but there's a lot of quality control issues in here as far as batching and making the product on site so we don't have the... Have we taken a look at all those problems we had in Van Nuys and make sure that these issues address all those issues?
Absolutely, and Mr. Masman is here. He's going to be the deputy in charge of managing this project on our behalf. The other thing I would like to articulate is that this is a very different project than the Van Nuys Flyaway. It is basically flat work. We're pouring concrete, lots of it, but pouring concrete on a flat surface. So it's very much less complicated than the Van Nuys Flyaway.
Yes, Mark Massman, Deputy Executive Director. Essentially, this type of project is very much FAA governed, and the quality assurance and safety requirements and specifications that put in this contract flow directly from the FAA. They're completely different specifications than were in the Flyaway project. I also note that our staff, who's built a series of taxiway and similar improvements under the same spec successfully over the last 10 years, is very familiar with this work. The Flyaway was a different type of project than one where we have a lot of experience with in recent times, which we do for this kind of a work. So I really believe we're in a different environment here.
And the other thing is, I noticed you're going to have a bi-weekly rather than monthly meeting with them to go over these issues. Did we put additional people in this contract as far as contract compliance and administration goes to make sure they're compliant as they do the work?
If you're saying within the contract, we have mandated that this contractor, under the specifications, staff full-time quality control people, full-time safety people, which were not the case on the Flyaway. And we also are staffing ourselves a counterpart, a quality assurance role, if you will, to oversee that.
And that's the kind of things I think we wanted to know from a public safety point of view, that we're doing those kind of things to make sure the mistakes that were made at Van Nuys will not be made on this contract, because it's ultimately much more important. And the last question I have is dealing with the budget. One concern we've had in Budget Committee recently was our good LAPD had paid $15 million of a $16 million contract on a product that didn't work, and we'd already paid for most of it. So I noticed in here you talk about you'll make payments are based on physical completion of the work terms. Does that mean that you'll pay when the work is physically done or when it is accepted as done?
When it's accepted as done.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you very much. My concern are met. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Cardenas?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate the attention and the debate on this matter. And I appreciate, Ms. Kennard, the position that we as individual electeds put you in when we ask you one question and a little bit different nuance, ask you the same question, and then the answer comes back a little differently because we posed it different, like whether or not these delays would be a concern or you're concerned about them or what have you. But one thing I'd like to articulate to my colleagues here, and those of you who were not here a few months ago, Mr. Huizar and Mr. Wesson, and that is that as the chair of a committee, we're given the responsibility to give extra attention to the issues that actually go through those committees. And the fact of the matter is, I would just like to articulate two issues that went through the Commerce Committee, of which I chair today. The Department of Water and Power said that basically they really, really needed an 18% water rate increase. And then we, the committee and the council, required them to really think about it. And the public obviously used their attention and got our attention and let us know that they didn't like the idea. And we forced the department to go ahead and articulate it better to the public. And then the public, not all, but some members of the public who were against an 18% actually were okay with 11% when we had some true policy discussion. And then it finally went through with an 11% increase instead of an 18% increase. And the Department of Water and Power is still in a healthy position. And they haven't asked for an increase yet, although they will soon. They've let us know. Secondly, through the Commerce Committee as well, we had the Department of Water and Power again, who said a $1.8 billion bond sale needed to happen like today. We needed to approve that today. We needed to go out to market next week And then because the committee was able to prevail on a 2-to-1 vote and send it to this council, and we denied that action. I'm not saying we're going to do it here, but I must emphasize to my colleagues that I'm not just doing this because I feel like it. I'm doing this because I'm exercising, in my personal opinion, my responsibility as an elected member of this body to take my chairmanship seriously and ask of you that you allow me and the committee members of my committee to have some more dialogue and articulate exactly what you were talking about, Greg, and some of these specifics as best possible so we can move it forward and have it properly advanced through this body. That's what I'm talking about. By the way, the Department of Water and Power, we, this body, denied them that, and then they came back with a bond, not next week when I told them, hurry up, you said you got to hurry. About 6 weeks later, the urgency really wasn't that urgent. And then they came back with a bond that was about $350 million less than they asked of us 6 weeks earlier. So when they had a chance to really think about it, we got a better result. That's what I'm talking about here, colleagues. I'm asking you to support me, the chairman of this committee, and trust in me that I'm not doing it because I feel like it. I just got off the phone with the mayor and explained to him again, because we talked about this before, about why this is important. And he agreed with me that he understood and respected that, you know, this body has that responsibility. And I told him, look, Antonio, we're going to have this pushed through and done by Friday. And I articulated both of your answers to him about the timing of 2 more days. So I'm asking of you, please, for the sake of good policy and our responsibilities, and for us and the mayor and LAWA and everybody to have less room for criticism, so that we give this an opportunity to have more public scrutiny and make sure that everything is articulated better than it has today. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Cardenas. We now have Mr. Rosendahl and Mr. Labange.
You know, I was going to say to my colleagues, do not go along with our chair in denying this, because I've been on that committee. But if the conversation with the mayor, Tony, and your comment to us just now said that we will resolve this by Friday, I'd like to hear you say that a little bit more. I'm more than happy to go 48 hours if that's what we're dealing with here. What I don't want to do is take this track time frame and push it aside, and the safety issue continues to burden us as a community. And secondly, the bigger planes in the future are also at stake. But most importantly, the process is low bid, FAA, we have oversight by both our city and the FAA. I feel comfortable no matter what kind of group this is, be it a rogue group or not, we're going to sit on top of them. But if 48 hours is what we're talking about, I'd like you to say that again. I will, vote with you.
I'll articulate as honestly and best I can the conversation I had with the mayor. If you're asking me to articulate, is it my will and expectation that we'll get this through this process by Friday? Absolutely. I'll say it again, absolutely. Everything that I can to make sure we do that, and I anticipate no snags. There's nothing conceivable that would cause any snags in this. And then my conversation with the mayor, if you're asking me to articulate a little bit about that, the bottom line is he said, Tony, I understand what you're doing. That basically he said it's okay with me. I don't want to, those are my words, not his. He basically, look, it's okay either way. If we get it done today, I don't have a vote on the council, so if you do what you guys got to do. If you get it done today, that's fine.
Okay.
If you get it done by Friday, that's fine.
What do you hope to have happen in the next 48 hours that we don't have in front of us now?
I have a lot of issues and questions that I'm going through with my staff that I'd like to articulate to LAWA and have them answer. But we're still going to be going through those, and by Friday morning we'll have them fine-tuned. As you've seen in that committee, Mr. Rosendahl, you're a member of that committee, the kind of questioning that we have people go through, and it's not about badgering people, it's not about making people look bad. No, it's just about getting the issues out in front on the record to make sure that we have a really tight process and that we understand what is going on so that it can go forward.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Mr. Parks for the first time, went to the top of the queue, and then Mr. Labange and Mr. Cardenas for a third time.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I would, again, hope that we would listen to Mr. Cardenas in the sense of 48 hours. We're talking about $200 to $300 million. We have seen in the past where things have come to council and we've rushed through them at the last minute and people have felt compelled to vote because they didn't have the time. and yet we have a committee chair that's saying, give me 48 hours to do the best job that I can. As we all know in this council, most of all of our work is done in committee, and that's the place that people should get that opportunity to express those views. Other folks can come in, and certainly all of us certainly have that scrutiny as it relates to the public as to did we do the best we can before we made the decision? Did we have the most information? If it comes back the same on Friday, it's a consent item and we all go away and say we've done the best we can. But if there's any issues that come up on Friday that are worth considering, the only way we're going to know that is through the committee process. And so I would hope that as any of us sit in these committees and chair these committees, that we have the ability to bring things to you and say give 48 hours as opposed to not 48 weeks or 48 months. We're talking about next council meeting to come back and be prepared to vote on this. I think also when the general manager of the department says, I'm willing to answer all the questions you have, I think that's a refreshing feeling also, because we've not necessarily seen that in general managers in the past. So I think it's one of those issues that we're obligated when we vote, even though it's automatic by these machines, that when we vote, that the public understands we have the best information available. The scrutiny has been given. Any of us that wish to come to the committee meeting on Friday can be there. The public can come there. And when it comes back on Friday, we all have a sense that we've left no stone unturned. And so I hope we support Mr. Cardenas today for that 48 hours so that we can come back Friday and know that we've gotten the best information.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. Mr. Labange?
Thank you. Is there anyone from Tudor-Saliba in the John Ferraro Council Chambers here? Would you like to come up here and please just tell us a little? You've heard this discussion. And while you come up, Madam Clerk, what's our schedule on Friday? Are we backed up from anything or just regular?
I believe the agenda is not that heavy on Friday.
Okay, good.
And there are whatever presentations there are.
You're familiar with all this discussion we've had here?
I certainly am. In fact, you saved me. I felt like bursting up here and grabbing the microphone.
Oh, okay, you can't do that down here, but you
I
could do
know.
this for us right now. You could tell us how committed you are to this project and how you're going to achieve this project without some of the challenges that you may have had at the Van Nuys Flyaway or at Hollywood Boulevard and Edgemont and Vermont and other projects. Which,
Well, let me speak to that for this council. I've been working for the city. Tudor-Saliba started in 1966 building projects. We built more major city projects than anybody breathing, probably more major public works. There's another side to the Van Nuys Flyaway that none of you only know what you read in the LA Times. And if you'd like to get involved and get into the specifics of what had happened at the Van Nuys Flyaway, then you would hear the other side. As in all disputes, even good people.
all right, let's go from Van Nuys down to LAX in this contract.
Because there is another side. What would you like me to
Well, what I
respond?
really wanted you to do was what I thought you could be able to do and be able to show confidence that you could deliver this project as bidded.
Other than the problems at the Van Nuys Flyaway, we have always delivered for this city, from Hyperion to the Central Library to Piper Technical Center. Every major project we've built, we have never filed a suit against the city, which no one else can lay claim to. We're committed to the airport runway project. We were $50 million lower than the other bidder. We have worked at LAX on and off for over 40 years. That'll be our 7th or 8th project at the airport.
Right.
We're totally
And for the record,
committed.
state your name.
I'm Ronald Tudor. I own Tudor-Saliba.
I know, and Mr. Ronald Tudor, you made one mistake, though. You didn't mention
I
another
made
very
plenty of them.
important public works project that you did in the mid-1970s.
Which one was that?
John Marshall High School.
Oh, yeah.
And you restored that high school. You did a very good job in that high school.
Well, we really think we're pretty good in spite of our disagreements with the Times and their
Well,
characterization.
don't pick on the Los Angeles Times, because it's, no, don't pick on the Times.
Every
there.
chance I get.
No, don't pick on the Times. Mr. Tudor, I support this contract. I want to go ahead, okay? I hear the Budget and Finance Chair express his concerns. I hear Mr. Cardenas express his concerns. I would just like to ask members, why don't we continue this to Friday, okay? Because this is very important. Mr. Weiss, I know I know you mentioned it to me, but we continue it for Friday. This is a very big citywide issue. Let the questions fly on Friday, and then we have it on time, we go forward. I just think it makes it easier as far as the 245, because I think it's, on a project such as the monumental as this, that we should not 245 it, that yet we should continue it if there's some questions that may people have to Friday, and it doesn't impede the safety that the passengers would have by 48 hours.
Is there a second to the continuation motion? All right.
I know. Just continue it.
There's-
If you want to talk about it, let's talk about it on Friday.
If
I mean,
there's no second,
Yeah.
Okay.
Continue this issue till Friday, if you want to.
just to clarify, there's three things on the table. One is to assert jurisdiction, which would then, we could send it back to committee because we would have Prop 245'd it. If we continue it here till Friday, we have not yet asserted jurisdiction, but it gives time and it keeps it here for further questions to be generated, or we can vote down the 245. Those are our three options, but there's no second on that one right now.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Cardenas? Sorry, Mr. Wesson popped to the top.
I just want to ask a couple of questions, since I'm not speaking for Mr. Weezer. We're the new kids on the block here. Now, we've discussed, yeah, I'm new. I know. We've discussed this item for almost an hour, so I guess my question is to Mr. Cardenas. I mean, we're already into the discussion where it relates to this issue. Can you not ask your questions now? Can we not have a committee of the whole?
Technically, Mr. Wesson, the discussion, the first discussion we have with this council is to whether or not 245. The discussion on the matter itself comes after whether or not we serve jurisdiction.
And what you're suggesting is
We assert jurisdiction.
And I do respect the chairs of committees, respect the work that they've done. I was in a position where I had to appoint several committee chairs and vice chairs. But again, for me, my only concern, we do want to accommodate a colleague, and I do think that we have a responsibility as elected people, but the feel that I get is that we will move forward on this item, and so I just want to know if there is a way to ask the questions or to have a hearing right now.
Mr. City Attorney.
So I, again, just would like
Just to clarify for Councilmember Wesson, would it be in order to ask substantive questions as we lead up to the 245, or do we need to assert jurisdiction first?
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe it would be appropriate to ask substantive questions so that the council members can make an informed decision as to whether to assert jurisdiction.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Gruhl is for a second time, and then right now, Mr. Cardenas for a third, and Mr. Rosendahl for a third.
I know it's painful for people to hear me, so I wanted to ask that question because I thought we could have the discussion about whether a 245 is important or not without having to actually vote on that. Okay, that was all.
Thank you, Mr. Cardenas?
First of all, I'd like to take care of a technical matter, a legal technical matter on what we're acting on, and that is, should we act today or Friday on this matter? That the council is, by this action, approving the LAX plan compliance pursuant to the LAX specific plan. Just wanted to clarify that. Secondly, Ron, to clarify that the action that we're taking, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
We're not approving the plan yet.
Mhm.
So this will be item number.
I'm sorry, I was making a clarification on item number 11 that's relevant to the master plan. Yes. Okay, sorry about that. Thank you for asking. Okay. Now, Ron, you and I had a chance to talk about the Van Nuys flyaway. And we talked about it, and we talked about the unfairness of what was played out in the public and what was really going on. I actually had an opportunity to talk to the director, Ms. Day, back then about it, and like you said, get various sides of what was going on. We actually had discussions in committee about it, but when all is said and done, that project is done, it looks like everything's fine, everybody's moved on. But unfortunately, You mentioned, for example, the LA Times, be it the LA Times, Daily News, or whoever else wants to go ahead and get snippets of what happened or what's going on. One of my objectives to having this go through a policy committee in the next 48 hours is to hopefully lay to rest some of that misinterpretation, some of that misinformation, so that you and LAWA can go ahead and do your jobs, hopefully with less rhetoric and wrong information coming out to the public about this or any other matter. To me, I think that's hopefully what we do when we have good, constructive policy conversation, good, constructive policy interaction with our departments about contracts or whatever other matter happens to be before us. That's one of my objectives. So when it comes to, like I said earlier, and those of you who have come before my committee and those of you who sit on my committee, that committee is not handled in any way where we beat people up. That committee is handled in a way where we have an objective to get to the truth, an objective to get down to the bottom of what is right, what is wrong, what we should be doing better or not, or what have you. And that is my objective here, is to make sure that we have that policy discussion here. And I must say, the commission vote, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Kennard, it was a 5-2 vote, right? So it wasn't even unanimous there. And I'm not saying it will or won't be unanimous on Friday in committee or on the floor. I anticipate that it will go through just fine. I just want to make sure that we do our job and have another opportunity to have that forum, to have some more questions and clarifications so that we can have less erroneous scrutiny, less erroneous statements about what's going on here and why we are or aren't doing business with this contractor or what have you. Lowest responsible bidder is the winner. Hopefully everything will go just fine. And this contract will be even better than any other contract we had, because, Ms. Kennard, this particular contract seems to be written tighter and better than perhaps any other contract we've had in the past at LAWA, right?
Yes.
So there goes step one. We're learning. We're proving that we're learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cardenas. Mr. Labange is our next speaker.
Thank you. Ms. Kennard, just to give it, we're doing 4,000 feet of runway? Just
No.
11,000.
11,000 feet. 11,000 feet of runway. And how deep is the concrete?
I think the concrete's 18 inches, and then there's another 18 inches of various layers of bedding below that,
And that's the basic job?
plus lighting and navigation aids, yes.
Right. So it's a job that can be achieved, we hope. This went through your commission? Your commission reviewed it once, twice, 3 times?
One time, but very extensively.
Very extensively, and your staff has reviewed, the city attorney has reviewed it.
That's correct.
Yeah, so, you know, to the chair, I mean, I'd like to say, okay, but you know what? I do remember the night that there was, this is a Friday night, I was on my way to Musso Frank's, I was right by John Farrell's house, and I blasted the radio, a challenge at LAX, and I don't ever want to see that challenge. So I want to fight hard to let this project go forward fast, and do it safely, do it right, do it within the budget, do it in the spirit of cooperation that is there. So I support moving forward with this project and this contract.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. We do have one public speaker card on this. If I can invite Kevin Norton from IBEW Local 11 forward to give public testimony at this time. Thank you.
Good evening, Council President, esteemed members. My name is Kevin Norton. I represent International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 11. We represent 8,000 electricians who do work on the construction projects in the city. And I just wanted to make a comment on the choice of Tudor Saliba. They have many problems on their projects. They had a red line, they had a tunnel collapse. They had San Francisco International Airport. They had many problems at that one. They're $32 million over budget on the UCLA Westwood Replacement Hospital, and some of the same contractors are in the same bid for the airport runways. So I think you need to talk about the Westwood Replacement Hospital, Helix Electric, the electrical subcontractor, which is being sued for not paying the prevailing rate by their own employees. It's a class action lawsuit, and the same team might not be at the airport, but the team of Helix Electric and Tudor Saliba is the same ones at the Westwood Replacement Hospital. So I'd ask you to use the due diligence that the city entrusts you with and look further into these projects and into the possibility of throwing out the bids and rebidding it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our last speaker is Mr. Rosendahl.
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. And as much as I respect my chair, Mr. Cardenas, I have one question. It's a legal question. Explain the 245 and how extraordinary it is and how it's to be used, or what is the 245 procedure?
I will defer to my colleague, Dion O'Connell.
The 245 process is in the charter to give the city council an opportunity to review actions by the various boards. A matter is not considered final until the 5 council meeting days after an action by the Board of Airport Commissioners in this case. So today we're on day 3, and it will not be considered final until it is acted on by council or waived by council.
To clarify for the members of the public, there are some items which are dispensed of without ever coming to the City Council that we have under Section 245 of the Charter, the ability to assert jurisdiction to either affirm or deny those actions that have been taken.
And to affirm jurisdiction, how does that come about, and why would one want to do that?
Well, council would want to assert jurisdiction so that it could review a matter, and then within 21 days after asserting jurisdiction, council can veto or approve a matter.
Thank you.
Okay, that is all the speakers that are before us. I'm sorry, it's just we cannot take a point from the public, but thank you, Mr. Tudor. Appreciate you being here and being available for the council members. What we have before us now, colleagues, is a vote on asserting jurisdiction on Prop 245 for this matter.
And 10 votes are required.
10 votes are required to assert jurisdiction. So if we can please open the roll on this item, please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
5 ayes, 7 noes.
That is denied. We do not assert jurisdiction.
And that fails unless council, and that will be on the agenda again on Friday unless council wishes to receive and file the matter.
Okay, if there's no motion to receive and file, that would be before. Okay, is there a second to receive and file? Mr. Weiss, please open the roll.
If I could interject.
Yes, I'm sorry.
By receiving and file, then council in effect will be waiving asserting jurisdiction of the matter, and the action will become final today.
Thank you for that clarification. Please vote, colleagues. The roll is open. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is received and filed. Thank you very much. If we can recess the regular agenda meetings, and convene the special meeting. We have a commissioner before us on the special agenda, but if we can run through that, please.
First,
and please call the roll.
Call the Cardenas, Gruel, Han, Huizar, Labange, Padilla, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Weiss, Wesson-Zine, Garcetti. 12 members present.
Okay, we've got a quorum, and we are in session. If we can take the first items, please.
First item, Mr. President, is a public hearing item, and that's an appeal from the City of El Segundo regarding a Board of Airport Commissioners action relative to a final EIR Southern Airfield project.
Colleagues, if there's no objection, why don't we continue that item since it also relates to an item in the regular agenda, unless folks would like to dispense with it right now. Is there any direction on that from Mr. Rosendahl or Mr. Cardenas? If not, why don't we continue that, and we will take that up today with the regular agenda together with the other item, okay? Next item?
Next item is item number 2, and that is an item for which public hearing has been held. It's a confirmation of Ms. Evangeline Ordaz Molina to the Affordable Housing Commission. A HCED report has been submitted.
Thank you very much. Ms. Molina was in committee today. We unanimously approved her nomination. If you'd like to say anything to the council briefly on the appointment, we'd love to hear from you right now.
Thank you. Just thank you for having me today. I know you're very busy, and I won't take up very much of your time, but I just wanted to say that I have been dealing with housing issues for the past 14 years, first as a legal aid attorney and subsequently doing slum litigation, and during that time I also founded an Affordable Housing Development Corporation, and I'm very excited to use that experience to assist in any way that I can with the housing issues in the city. Thank you.
All right. Well, despite learning that you moved to Highland Park, you still have my support. And if Mr. Huizar would like to be heard on this, and Mr. Rosendahl.
Sure. Just briefly, I want to thank you for all the work you've done for the City of Los Angeles and further extending yourself to offer your knowledge and expertise I've had the privilege of knowing you when I was a board member at the East LA Community Corporation, where an organization you founded and really is doing some marvelous work throughout the east side to provide more affordable housing for first-time home buyers and others. So thank you for your work, and thank you for your commitment to better serve the city of Los Angeles. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huizar. Mr. Rosendahl.
Congratulations on going forward with this public service. When you're on that commission, I want you to look into the Ellis Act, which seems to be used as a way to strip us of affordable housing and our middle class. I'm suffering through a big issue called Lincoln Place, and I look forward to your leadership on that subject. Do you have any comment about that?
Not at this time. I'll take a look at it, and I'm familiar with some of the issues around it, and frankly, I'm somewhat confounded myself. So
I look forward to your leadership.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Seeing no other members wishing to be heard, please prepare the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Congratulations, Commissioner. Thank you very much for putting yourself forward for service. You are confirmed. All right. And let's do forthwith on that item to the mayor. Anything else on the special meeting?
No, Mr. President, that would conclude the special meeting.
Let's adjourn that, and let's reconvene the regular agenda, please. Next item.
Mr. President, there were 3 items that were adopted previously earlier in the meeting, items 13, 55, and 58, and in the meantime, amending motions have been distributed. Do you wish to reconsider those items to adopt
Yes.
them as amended?
Is there any objection to reconsideration of those 3 items? If not, I'll consider that a unanimous vote of the council for reconsideration. You can open and close the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Those are before us. If there's nobody wishing to be heard as amended, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
55 forthwith, please. All right. We have item 41 before us with quite a few speaker cards here. Why don't we take that up next? Is there a motion for a public hearing on this item? Mr. Rosendahl?
President, a public hearing would be great, and if we could do this, 10 minutes for those on certain positions and 10 minutes for those on other certain positions, for a total of 20 minutes if possible.
Okay. We have a number of cards here, so I'm going to ask that we set the clock again at 1 minute to try to hear as many of them as possible. We have, I think, almost 40 cards on this. So we will go in order they are received, trying to give both pro and con side. There are some folks who did not check that whether they're for or against. I'll still call them in order, but if you can please state whether you're for or against the proposal. Carla Andrus is our first speaker. Hans Eber would be our second, and Donald Klein. If you'd please line up and let us know what your position is, and public comment is now yours. Is Carla Andrus here? Nope. Hans Eber? Mr. Eber? Nope. And Donald Klein? Going once. Is Mr. Klein? Is right here? Okay, please. Our first speaker is Mr. Eber. For the proposal, on the for side.
Yes, my name is Hans Eber, and I'm against the Playa Vista project. And I'm a local resident. I have a boat off Bologna Creek. I notice all those people with yellow stickers here today have been bussed in by the Playa Vista Corporation. And I'm sure not even half of them knows what this issue is about. I think it's important that you take in what those people that have been for years protesting this development, not just for the methane gas problem, but also for the traffic it adds to the area. And it has to be taken as a whole, not just what Playa Vista adds. It could, in case we have a tsunami or an earthquake, they're almost impossible to eliminate all this, get people out of here.
Thank you, Mr. Eber. If I can ask you to conclude.
That's it?
Yeah, we have the clock right there, sorry.
Couldn't see it. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you very much. George Milstein? I just want to confirm Donald Klein is not in the room. Is that Mr. Klein? Okay, Mr. Klein before you, Mr. Milstein, please. Donald Klein, why don't you come forward, please? And I'm sorry, I'll say it again, just if folks will watch the clock there, and we apologize for only being able to afford 1 minute today, but we'll get to as many people as possible. Thank you. Please start the clock.
President Garcetti, distinguished members of the council, my name is Donald Klein. I'm president of the Coalition to Save the Marina, Marina Del Rey, a nonprofit organization with more than 700 supporters in the Playa Vista and surrounding community areas. The issue before you today, the dewatering, which in itself continues to be a serious health and safety problem, demands your immediate attention. As you may well know, the water table in the Playa Vista Marina area is very high and fluctuates with tidal changes and local stormwater. Dewatering was not addressed in the EIR, and the dewatering itself may cause the intrusion of salt water and, in fact, causing more methane gas to permeate the soil and buildings in this area. I have personally heard the methane alarm sounding near the Home Depot area, and other friends living in the Westchester area have complained about alarms in the early hours in the morning. And this controversy can best be put to rest by implementation of the SCR. SCIR.
Thank you for your testimony. Appreciate it. George Milstein and Joe Griever to be followed by John Gordon. If you can please line up behind Mr. Milstein. Thank you.
Honorable Council members, George Milstein.
Sorry about that.
Honorable Council members, George Milstein, Latham Watkins, representing Playa Vista and Playa Capital. We are here today to ask you to move forward with the peer review of the two methane studies and other information that has been supplied by the experts with respect to the issues of groundwater dewatering associated with methane systems at Playa Vista Phase 1. This is an outgrowth of a Court of Appeals decision. It is a very limited question. We ask you to support the advice of the City Attorney with respect to this matter. I would like to take a minute and ask all the residents of Playa Vista who are here today to stand for a minute, if they would. These people have a vital interest in getting this peer review done quickly and in resolving the issues of groundwater dewatering. That is the only issue that the court has asked you to look at. In addition, I'm very pleased to report that yesterday the Superior Court upheld the city's approval of the Phase 2 project, found that the methane systems are adequate and appropriate and provide a safe environment, and further that the groundwater dewatering systems in Phase 2 are also appropriate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Joe Griever, going once. Twice. Excuse me, if we can just make sure that folks can hear their names. Thank you for your enthusiasm. Joe Griever? Nope. Okay. John Gordon? Is John Gordon here? Once, twice. Steve Soboroff, please.
Steve Soboroff, Playa Vista, 90094. Today's issue is important to us because we're co-defendants in a lawsuit, the city and Playa Vista. The same question was answered in Phase 2, and it was approved by the City Council. Yesterday, like George said, the judge ruled in favor of the city and Playa once again, I think the 21st or 22nd time, on all issues, including dewatering. The Phase 2 EIR said there are no impacts, and the judge agreed. But we did the reports. The reports are finished now. They need to be independently reviewed in the light of day. And it's time for the city to put this issue at rest, because these people live in Playa Vista, and we're doing good things for Los Angeles. So let's have them reviewed the way the city attorney says to review them. Let's not delay. Let's move forward. We're in this boat together. We are co-defendants. Let's follow the city attorney.
Thank you. Patricia McPherson? Patricia McPherson here? Patricia McPherson? She's coming, okay. To be followed by, if I can ask the subsequent speakers to please line up behind Sabrina Venskus and Tom Penton, excuse me.
Good day. My name is Patricia McPherson. I'm president of Grassroots Coalition. Number one, this is a community-wide issue. The dewatering is not a technical legal issue. I think it's very clear that if it were only a simple technical legal issue, we would not have the resistance to doing and performing an SEIR that we have today. This is a community-wide issue. We have many neighborhoods that are concerned about the dewatering needs. With the new citywide methane code, we have even more dewatering needs that need to be included in a cumulative fashion. The state has spent millions of dollars on this property already as an ecological system, and we need to make sure that that ecological system stays intact. And I think that the court has ruled that either a subsequent or a supplemental EIR is necessary here. And I believe that if anyone thinks that there is anything less for this site, well, there is nothing less. The court has already made its point. It is either a subsequent or a supplemental EIR to be done here. And these are
Thank you.
extreme health and safety issues.
We appreciate your testimony very much. Sabrina Venskis? She here? Nope. Tom Penton? Once, twice? Jeanette Vosberg? Vosberg? I see her coming.
I would like to defer to Kathy Carey, who also has a card, and then I'd like to speak later.
Okay, we'd prefer if you go right now. You guys can give each other, here, if we can pause the timer for a second.
Is she next in line?
No,
Kathy
she's
Carey?
not. She's not. But you can give her your time if
I'd
you'd
like to give my
Okay,
time
why
to
don't you
her.
pause the timer, please, Madam Clerk? Come forward. This will be on your time, and if we don't get to her card, then you may not have the chance, but I just want to let you know. Okay, please.
Good morning. I'm
Good morning.
Kathy Carey. I'm here on
Starting a
behalf
little bit.
of the residents of Fountain Park. I'm a former resident of Fountain Park. I am very concerned about the gas issues there. We have in our lease that the Fountain Park is located on an active oil and gas producing region of Southern California. Gas is commonly associated with oil and gas production, such as methane, hydrogen sulfide, and BTEX chemicals. Gases have been detected at the Playa Vista site. The buildings at Fountain Park are equipped with a methane detection system, which is linked to the local fire department. The soil and groundwater at Fountain Park apartments have been sampled for numerous constituents, although some petroleum products, metals, pesticides have been detected at the site. The Regional Board has concluded that the soil and groundwater do not pose a threat to the environment.
Thank you very
I
much.
would like-
I can ask you to
I
conclude.
believe I still have more time. I'd
We
like
gave
to-
you the extra 20 seconds that we'd taken off, so if I can ask you to conclude, please.
Pardon me?
I made sure that we paused it for another 20 seconds, so if we can ask you to conclude, please, that's been a minute.
These are the pants of a resident who got out of the car with her clothes.
Thank you.
They spontaneously
We
combusted
appreciate that.
in the garage.
Okay. Our next speaker, thank you very much for your testimony. We appreciate that. Our next speaker is Roman Lujan, and then Tom Moxley, and then Kathy Carey. Thank you. I'm sorry, that was Kathy Carey. So then the previous speaker who wanted to take Kathy Carey's time will be third. But is Roman Lujan here? No? Tom Moxley?
Mr. President and distinguished council members, well, Happy New Year. I have been in front of this council many times to speak on behalf of Playa Vista, having been in the construction industry for 34 years and know all the ins and outs of how safety and determinations. This is a safe project. It's been well thought out. We've went through the EIR, EIS process, which I spent many hours on looking at in the entire project. And it's time to move on, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you.
Thank you. If Jeanette Vosberg would like to come up on Kathy Carey's time now. My apologies, it was close by in the list.
I'm Jeanette Vosberg. I'm an area resident, and I'll be honest with you. I've talked to some of these people that are here from Playa Vista, and I have some serious questions as to whether some of them even know why they're here. And a couple of them indicated that they'd like to know about the health and safety issues themselves, and they live at Playa Vista. So for me, this is all about not bamboozling anybody or saying it's an SEIR or it's this or it's that. The issue here is that all of you around this horseshoe are responsible. I think that's why I elected our official, Bill Rosendahl, and I think that many of you were elected under the guise of providing health and safety for your constituents. This is a serious issue. It needs to be done with a supplemental EIR. If it is safe, as Playa Vista said, then show us. Just show us. Show us it's safe.
Thank you. Appreciate your testimony. Our next speaker will be Ben Levin, then Barna Sabo, and Ernest Roberts.
Good morning, members of the council. My name is Ben Levin, and I am here with many of my Playa Vista neighbors because, quite frankly, we're getting very frustrated. We're extremely disappointed in what we understand to be Councilman Rosendahl's repeated bashing of Playa Vista and its perfect safety record. We are fortunate to live in one of the few developments in Los Angeles that has any methane mitigation at all, and at Playa Vista, the methane mitigation is so comprehensive and so well engineered that it has become the model for future methane mitigation throughout the city. I see this as better living through modern technology. I'm a partner with one of the largest regional architectural firms in the city, and we're currently starting the construction on the former Belmont Learning Center, High School 11, where we're putting methane mitigation into existing buildings and new buildings where we're going to have over 2,000 of our high school students. What I'd say is I'd be really worried about the areas where we don't have methane mitigation, like Venice, where there also is methane. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Barna Sabo.
Good afternoon, President Garcetti, members of the council. My name is Barna Sabo. My wife and I work and live in Playa Vista, and we consider ourselves very fortunate to live there. I think it's important to remind everyone that this project has been in the works for decades, long before most of you were actually on the council. As far as back as 1993, Playa Vista Phase 1 EIR was approved. It was the result of work of hundreds of people, millions of dollars, and it involved highly qualified experts who have studied every single aspect of this project to as many conditions and many possible explanations as possible. I think it's also important to recognize that it's the legacy. This project is a legacy of 3 previous city council members, Marvin Browdy, Ruth Golenter, and Cindy Michikowski. Every one of them were very much engaged in this project. I think we had enough studies on this project. I think we studied it to death. It's time to move on. Let this child grow to full maturity and show all its full potential. I'm proud to live and work in Playa Vista, where 4,000 people live, and it is not a gated community. I think that's an important issue that all of you should recognize.
Ernest Roberts is our next speaker.
Good afternoon, members of the City Council. My name is Ernest Roberts. I'm Executive Director of PV Jobs. We're a nonprofit placing at-risk youth and adults into various construction projects. We have 65 collaborators who are sending us their most at-risk individuals to try to find jobs, to change their lives. I have some of them are here now from the Walden House. The guys from the Walden House, you guys stand up? This is a drop in the bucket of the number of, we've had over 6,000 referrals to this agency to try to find work. The federal government has already put locks on federal student loans for programs for them to go back to college. They don't have, they can't get federal licensing. The construction industry is one of the few industries that are left for them to operate in. Delaying this project anymore is just going to affect the hundreds of workers that are currently working there. We have over 300 working at Playa Vista right now. It would be very sad.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your testimony. Our next speaker is Paul Herzog, to be followed by Steve Donnell.
Thank you, council members. I have a couple hundred more letters we weren't able to fax in last night. The lines were clogged up. There have already been 500 letters sent to each one of you on this issue previously. Several groups have also sent in letters. Department of Fish and Game, Sierra Club, Natural Resources Defense Council. I don't want to play a numbers game. I think it's pretty obvious. This is a very important issue that merits further study. And most importantly, the court just ruled on the 4th, that is the state Supreme Court, that they would not hear Playa Vista's appeal. This needs to go back for further study. The court has ruled on this. Better minds than ours have already said more study. So I think you want to keep this in mind. We've been here before, whether it's phase 2 or phase 1. Study needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Donnell?
I followed Playa Vista for many years, even before I decided to move there, and I want to state affirmatively that I know what the issues are with respect to methane. I trust the technology. I'm glad the technology is there, and my neighbors feel the same way. It's readily apparent that the opponents for this project have done everything possible to slow it down. I understand why many of them oppose the project. It's because that's how many of them make their living. I do have a concern about how the City Council has taken its approach to this project, however. I would ask each of you to think about the projects in your own district. How many of them have a state-of-the-art methane mitigation system? How many of them have had each and every element of safety reviewed for more than a decade? How many of them have had to go through the endless review process that Playa Vista has gone through? As residents, we have educated ourselves about the technology and safety features we enjoy in our homes at Playa Vista, and we are as tired of these endless hearings debating Playa Vista as you are. You have the power to end all of this once and for all. Please make your decision. Please keep phase 1 moving forward.
Thank you.
Put this issue to bed. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Our last two speakers are Stephen Hardenberg and Diane Fecci. Excuse me if I butchered that name. Or Fesh.
Morning. My name's Stephen Hardenberg. What I can't understand is the endless discussion about the methane systems at Playa Vista. Isn't this the same methane system that the city thought was so great that it used the Playa Vista system to create its citywide methane mitigation standards? The methane systems work. They have been reviewed and re-reviewed. There is no reason whatsoever to continue the endless discussion about methane systems at Playa Vista. What the city should be doing, if it is so concerned about the people living in Los Angeles, living over methane, is conduct a study of projects that do not have the mitigation systems that are in place at Playa Vista. Retrofit the old buildings, examine ways to deal with methane where it is even more prevalent than in Playa Vista, like in Venice. Stop attacking Playa Vista when it is the only major development in Los Angeles that is actually dealing with methane. A year and a half ago, this city council made the right decision to move Playa Vista forward in Los Angeles. Make the same decision again.
Thank you. Before we hear from our next speaker, excuse me one second before we hear from our next speaker, I think since you both had different boxes checked off, I thought you were on opposing sides. We've had 8 people in support of Playa Vista, 7 on the other side, so I'd like to ask the next that I have that I think is from the other side to close out, or if you'd like to choose one person, but Andrew Beath is who I have next. Okay.
Hi, my name is Sabrina Venskis. I'm the attorney that representing Grassroots Coalition, which won the Court of Appeal lawsuit, and I've been before you before. This isn't about stopping Playa Vista. This is about the city finally complying with the law as it should have done in the first place. Nobody here is saying stop Playa Vista. The city doesn't have to stop Playa Vista. If Playa Vista Phase 1 is going to be stopped, it'll be by the court. That's for the court's discretion. And regardless of what you do today, whether it be an SCIR or a CLA report, the court will have to decide whether or not the project should be stopped until the city complies with CEQA. I don't understand the reasoning by some that would say that we shouldn't do an SCIR, instead we should do something else so that we can avoid stopping the construction on Playa Vista. That's not at issue here. What's at issue is what can the city do to make sure that it does what it needs to do to comply with CEQA so that the court doesn't kick it back to you guys again and say, you got it wrong again, guys. Get it right. Let's follow the law.
Thank you. If I can
So
ask you to
I just
spell-
really
I'm
want to
so-
encourage
I'm
you
sorry,
to
you're gonna
take
have
the
to-
safe approach and do an SCIR, and let's all be done with this.
Can you please also spell your last name for the clerk?
I'm sorry.
Because we didn't have a card for you.
My name is Sabrina Venskis. It's V as in Victor, E-N-S-K-U-S. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. All right, the other cards that we have here are, just for the record, Gregory Power, James Farrow, Judith Clancemino, Mike Arias, Brigitte Baker, Caroline Galbraith, James Moore, Carol Tyson, Michael Huerta, Kevin Norton, David Kirsch, David Steffen, Arthur Purcell, Andrew Beath, Abraham Brittian, Jack Pritchett, Dan Cohen, Kathy Knight, Martin Robin, Andrew Beath, again, excuse me, Shireen Shartawi, excuse me, Tom Francis. That closes public comment for this. Members wishing to be heard on this item. Okay. Anybody, before we go into closed session, Mr. Rosendahl?
I just want to thank everybody here with the yellow stickers and without the yellow stickers for participating in the democracy, bringing your points of views and discussing it with us here, and we'll go into closed session and talk more about it. But thank you all for coming.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rosendahl. We'll now go into closed session. Why don't we walk through, if Mr. Rosendahl, is it all right before we go into closed session to go through the other 3 items that we have before us, and then we'll go into closed session?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Is it all right with you if we go through the other 3 items before we go into closed session on this? Okay. All right, let's go through the other items then, Madam Clerk.
The next item before council is item number 11, and along with that item is the item from the special meeting, which is an appeal from the city of El Segundo, and I believe the recommendation would be to take up that matter first before going into number 11.
Okay. Can take that item.
And that's...
Madam City Attorney. That was
And
yes.
that is, a motion is required to either grant or deny the appeal.
Okay. Madam City Attorney, if you'd like to,
And there are no public hearing cards on that item.
we will open and close then public hearing. Please. Go ahead, please.
William Waterhouse, Assistant City Attorney. What is before you?
If we can please ask folks to just wait on their conversations until they're out of the council chambers, we'd appreciate it. Thank you very much, and thank you for your patience today.
What is before you? A provision of the Public Resources Code allows a person to appeal a decision by a commission to the council, a decision to certify an EIR. Here, the Board of Airport Commissioners has certified the EIR for the South Runway project, and the City of El Segundo has filed an appeal to the council of that decision to certify the EIR. Whether to certify the EIR is also before you in item 11, where the recommendation is to certify the EIR and adopt related findings. So the recommendation on Special 1 would be to consider the appeal, find it has no merit, and deny the appeal.
I would like to point out Patricia Tubert, Deputy Executive Director for Los Angeles World Airports. We are in the midst of a settlement agreement on the LAX master plan that includes this project, which is the South Airfield project, which you will be hearing in item number 11. El Segundo is part of that settlement agreement. El Segundo has agreed not to sue us on the South Airfield project as part of that settlement agreement. Nonetheless, since that settlement agreement is not coming to council until next week, they had to file this appeal in order to preserve their rights in case you do not approve the settlement agreement. And that's why it's before you. Our position, of course, is that the EIR is adequate. We have discussed all impacts. We have the appropriate baseline. We have the appropriate thresholds. We have done everything that is required under CEQA in preparing the document that we'll discuss in item number 11.
Okay. Thank you. Any members wishing to be heard on this? Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like to make sure everybody understands that the item, this is special item number 1, and that this has to do with a lawsuit from El Segundo, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. But the bottom line on that lawsuit, our opinion today is that it doesn't have merit. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So basically, what we're contemplating or considering in council today is to whether or not the council is going to find that we adopt item number 11, which is also on the agenda, and that's basically what's before us, and which is basically in conjunction with the fact that we're of the opinion here in the city, our city attorney's office, that that lawsuit doesn't have merit.
That's correct. Item number 11 will be the certification of the EIR and all the findings that need to be made both under CEQA and under the specific plan, and then ultimately, should you certify it, approval of the project.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other members wishing to be heard on this? So do we have a motion before us, or we still need to make a motion?
Yes, Mr. President, someone needs to make the motion to deny the appeal.
Okay.
I move that we deny
I will second that for Mr. Cardenas. Please prepare the roll. Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That denial is approved. Okay. And the second item?
And that would leave item number 11 before council.
That's what they're doing.
Okay. That requires a motion as well? Or no?
No, that's a committee report.
Let us, would you like to be heard on it, Mr. Cardenas, so move that forward?
Yeah, I'd just like to add the technical language that I spoke out of order earlier, that the council is, by this action, approving the LEX plan compliance pursuant to the LEX specific plan.
Okay, great.
And if I could explain, that is part of your item number 6, but it wasn't clear. We wanted to make sure that it became clear.
Okay, great. Let's prepare the roll on that and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item of business.
Next item, Mr. President, is item number 49, and that was called special by Councilmember Hahn.
Councilmember Hahn called item 49 special. Ms. Hahn? We have item 49 before us, so Chair recognizes Ms. Hahn.
Colleagues, what we have before us today is a new ordinance that I have been working on since I got elected. Another issue in Wilmington, which was very problematic, was the truck traffic that barreled through the streets of Wilmington on its way to and from the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles. And as you know, the volume of containers that are coming in and out of that port are enormous. Right now, between the two ports, there's about 13 million containers that come in and out of there. That number is projected to grow, it's projected to triple in 20 years. So the amount of trucks and the amount of cargo that we're trying to get in and out of the port are enormous. Part of the problem has been for the trucks, before we implemented the off-peak system, which has been very successful, by the way, is that a lot of for these trucks, time is money. So they only got paid when they dropped off the load or picked up the load. Well, when the congestion gets really difficult, when there becomes a bottleneck in and out of the terminals at those ports, these trucks begin to cut through residential areas of Wilmington. Well, they basically have mowed down the actual signs that say no trucks over 6,000 pounds should be on this street. I mean, that's how disrespectful they've been. This is how arrogant they've been in terms of obeying our laws on where these trucks can travel. They have literally broken sidewalks. They have torn up the streets. Many of these areas are right in front of schools, in front of playgrounds, in front of parks. Our problem has always been that the fine, if they were caught, if they were cited, if they were prosecuted, the fine amounted to $50. Well, for a trucking company, $50, I think, was beginning to be the cost of business, as long as they could use these shortcuts, as long as they could get their cargo there in a fast manner. So I wanted to up that fee to like $250, $300 per violation. What we found, what the city attorney's office has been working with me on, is that we found that the state code actually will not let local municipalities just up that fine to whatever we wanted. There is a cap in terms of what we can penalize these violations for. So what this does today is we have a new ordinance that will increase the fines for the first and second offenses. It begins with the first offense at $100, and then subsequent fines will begin at $200. The other thing this ordinance does, colleagues, is it changes the classifications of this violation from a misdemeanor to an infraction, which I believe makes it easier to prosecute. So far, these guys have really been thumbing their nose at us. The fine was pathetic. We really weren't able to prosecute them in a meaningful way. This actually puts some teeth in the idea that we should be able to have local ordinances that control how trucks traverse our streets. And friends, this is a public safety matter if there ever was any for the community of Wilmington. And so I hope you'll support this. I want you to know that our LAPD, our port police officers, our highway patrol officers have already established sort of a truck task force. They're out there on the streets, they're monitoring these violators, they're catching them, they're citing them, but now finally we are giving them a little more authority, a little more teeth into what we can do. I think this sends a message. We believe in goods movement, we believe in the international trade industry. It's important to the commerce not only of Southern California but really of the nation. But you know what? We've got to have those demarcation lines between industry and between residential streets and the safety of people. I hope you will support me on this ordinance. I'm really proud of the City Attorney's Office. I'm proud that we were able to accomplish this.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Mr. Labange.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Ms. Hahn, thank you, because I remember that community meeting we had in Wilmington, and you started talking about it then. And Madam City Attorney, thank you for your creation of the proper ordinance here on this, because it's so important, because all of a sudden it just deters the quality of life on this particular issue, and they take it as a ticket as a cost of doing business. Well, a $2.50 a pop will make a different thought, and hopefully they'll find the right spaces to park their trucks. I know this is not just exclusive to your district. I have some of this problem in the San Fernando Valley, the district that I cover, and some parts of the Hollywood area as well. So I appreciate it. And if everybody follows the rules, it works. And what we have to do is have good rules, and it will work. Thank you again, Ms. Hahn, for your leadership.
Mr. Rosendahl is next, to be followed by Ms. Gruhl.
Thank Ms. Hahn for your leadership. You know, we're all in this together, and when we see those trucks in our communities doing what they're doing, the fact that you're exerting influence and leadership on that, I applaud, and I will obviously enthusiastically support you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Ms. Gruhl.
Thank you, and I just want to congratulate you, Ms. Hahn, on this. And I have a question. We have a lot of laws on the books that we can never really enforce. Did you talk about, and you can take the remainder of my time, how we're going to enforce this? Because I have the same problem in Latuna Canyon, in a part of my district where trucks just go. An ability to kind of beef up our enforcement.
Just point of privilege, I will say, I think what we need to do today, and I encourage all of us to do this, I think we need to all send a message to, particularly to the LAPD, to the traffic division. I think we need to let them know, because I think they've probably been hesitant in the past to really cite these violators, because it really wasn't that big of a deal. It was difficult to prosecute. We were winking and nodding to these kind of violations. I think this is going to help in enforcing these laws. And I think our message today really is going out to LAPD and all the cops on the street to not hesitate to cite these violations, because we now have something that backs up their efforts. And I think the police department will appreciate this, and you ought to have a conversation with your own officers in your own districts to enforce this.
Just to close, thank you, Ms. Hahn, because this is going to benefit all of our districts.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much. Nobody else wishing to be heard? Mr. Labange? Yes, sir.
Usually when a car parks illegally, put a Denver boot on it to impede it. Would this include that if they don't move it at all? Not just the citation, but would we, maybe instead of a Denver boot, maybe a Rocky Mountain or a Great Divide boot, because they're a bigger vehicle? Will we boot these trailers?
How about a Texas boot?
A Texas boot. I don't know. We got a Texas boot last week there, Ms. Hahn. You don't watch it, but we did for...
We avoided talking about that the entire meeting till now. So.
Will there be...
That was going to be for adjourning motions.
Will there be a boot or anything if they don't move the vehicles? Because I also see sometimes they just take the ticket, take the ticket, take the ticket.
Right.
Will you have DOT look at
I
that?
don't know, does this apply more to traveling on the streets?
Yeah, this doesn't relate to parking on the street. It
Okay,
relates
good.
to traveling on.
Thank you for the clarification. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can please prepare the roll? Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved.
Mr. President, that is an ordinance, and the ordinance goes over for second reading
Okay.
because there weren't 12 people.
Ms. Hahn, that'll go over to second reading because there are 11 members, so
Good, I'll give my speech on the second one, too.
great. We look forward to that. Next item, please.
Next item, Mr. President, is item number 77. That was called special for an amending motion, and that has been distributed to the council members.
Anybody wishing to be heard on item 77? If not, Madam Clerk, please prepare the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved as well. Okay, that clears our open session items, is that correct?
Mr. President, do you wish to clear the desk before going into closed session?
Yes, let's do that.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Those are posted and referred.
There are excuses on the desk. Councilmember Parks requests to be excused January 20th, 24th, 25th, and 27th for personal business. That meets council policy.
Mr. Parks is excused.
Councilmember Perry requests to be excused Friday, January 13th, and Wednesday, January 25th, and Friday, the 27th for city business. That meets council policy.
She is excused too.
Councilmember Weezer requests to be excused Friday, January 20th, and also from today's meeting to leave at 1 p.m., and those are for personal business, and those meet council policy.
Okay, he is excused.
Council President Garcetti requests to be excused Friday, February 10th, and Friday, January 20th, to leave at noon for city business. Those will meet council policy.
Okay, he's excused.
Councilmember Rice requests to be excused Tuesday, January 17th, to arrive at 11:30 for city business. That meets council policy.
Okay, he's excused.
And Councilmember Reyes requests to be excused Wednesday, January 11th, to leave at 1 p.m. for city business. A motion is required.
I will move that. Ms. Gruhl will second, and he has been excused.
Councilmember Hahn requests to be excused Tuesday, January 17th, to leave at 10:30 for city business. That meets council policy.
Okay, she is excused.
And that clears the desk.
Okay. We will now go into closed session in accordance with California state law to consider items in executive session, and we will come back into open session to communicate any action that we have taken. Thank you. Welcome back, colleagues. We are now have before us recommendation. Mr. City Attorney, if you'll please read recommendation that we have voted on in closed session.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will summarize what was voted on in open session, in closed session, and then council will vote again on the other item in open session. Council failed to adopt by a vote of 3 to 7 a motion by Mr. Rosendahl to adopt findings relative to preparing and conducting a supplemental environmental impact report and to prepare.
Sorry, Mr. City Attorney, if I can ask you, I know some people are just coming in who are quite interested in this. Can you just start from the beginning and please let them know what transpired in closed session?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, could he repeat that?
Yeah, that's what I've asked him to do, to start again from the beginning so that
Great.
folks that are coming in. Okay. Yes, Mr. Weiss.
Privilege, I guess. I just don't remember us going through in public the votes we've taken in closed session before. I'll defer to both city attorneys here. I certainly don't want us to do anything now that inadvertently waives any privilege. So I defer to you, but I just want to make sure you're
Would you
sensitive.
like to weigh in on that before you describe possibly anything?
Yes, the actions that are taken in closed session should be reported in open session and what the vote was.
Okay, then please let us know those actions.
So regarding 41A,
In regards to 41A,
so regarding 41A, that action I'm reporting on now.
That's my motion.
That's Mr. Rosenthal's motion. And then also, council will be voting again in open session on the other motion that was voted upon.
Correct.
So that city staff can receive direction from council.
Okay.
So the first motion, 41A, was a motion by Mr. Rosendahl to adopt attached findings relative to preparing and conducting a supplemental EIR, and to have the city attorney's office and planning department prepare and conduct a supplemental environmental impact report. That motion failed. It was not adopted. Now, the second motion that is before council now is to authorize the CLA with concurrence of the city attorney and the Bureau of Engineering to enter into contracts with one or two firms with substantial expertise in groundwater modeling and subsidence to provide a peer review and assessment of the following reports, one by Group Delta Consultants, one by Camp Dresser McGee, and to authorize the CLA to provide to the peer reviewer any materials relative to groundwater dewatering systems associated with the methane mitigation systems in Phase 1 of Playa Vista development, and to conduct 2 public hearings in Council District 11 to obtain comments on the groundwater dewatering systems associated with the methane mitigation systems in Phase 1 of Playa Vista, also to report back to City Council, and finally to authorize the CLA in consultation with the city attorney to negotiate reimbursement by Playa Capital Company for the full cost to the city associated with the above-mentioned contracts.
If I might clarify, we also had in the amendment, I believe, a 1-week gap between the 2 meetings.
That's correct.
Okay. Please open the roll on that. Close the roll and tabulate the vote.
9 ayes, 1 no.
Okay, that is approved. Forthwith, please. Okay. Next order of business.
That clears the desk, Mr. President.
Okay, announcements, colleagues? Do we have any announcements?
Very good job, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Labange. We have an announcement from CD9. Councilmember Jan Perry would like to invite you to a Clean Air Congress Fair on Saturday, January 14th. That's this Saturday from 1 to 4 at Mercado La Paloma, which is at 3655 South Grand Avenue, just south of downtown, next to the DMV, adjacent to the 110 Harbor Freeway. That's a Clean Air Congress Fair that AQMD and Councilmember Jan Perry are sponsoring. There'll be refreshments, activities for kids, and presentations. Any other announcements, colleagues? Okay, any other announcements? Seeing none, if I can ask everybody in chambers to please rise for adjourning motions. Okay, Mr. Cardenas? Thank you very much. Excuse me, Mr. Cardenas. If I can have everybody's attention, please. We are doing adjourning motions for folks who have passed away, so we'd like to have everybody's attention for the adjourning motions. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President Garcetti. With great sadness, we adjourn in the memory of former LA City Councilman Hernani Bernardi. He was a former councilman in the Los Angeles San Fernando Valley. Hernani Bernardi died on Wednesday, January 4th, 2006. He was 94. He died at his home in Van Nuys of heart failure. Bernardi, the son of an Italian immigrant, was born in the living quarters of a small grocery store that his family owned in Standard, Illinois. He was raised by his grandmother and father, who taught him how to play the saxophone. Playing under the name of Nani Bernardi, he was a smooth-toned lead alto sax player during the 1930s with such big band players as Benny Goodman and Jimmy and Tommy Dorsey. He came to California in 1940 with the Kay Kaiser's College of Musical Knowledge as they moved here. Bernardi, once on the LA City Council, was known for being a fierce advocate for the San Fernando Valley and a hardcore critic of wasteful government spending. He opposed redevelopment schemes and foresaw the exodus of business and jobs from LA if the government didn't act to change its ways. In the spring of 1989, Bernardi won a hard-fought battle for the 7th Council District in a new heavily Latino district, resulting from the 1986 council reapportionment of the city. He vowed that it would be his last race. At the age of 81, he ran for mayor, but finished far behind. After retiring from public office, he remained active in city politics. In 2000, he added his name to a ballot measure opposing a $532 million bond measure to build fire stations and animal shelters. On November 17, 2001, at the age of 90, he married Eve Troutman. His wife said that he lived every day to the fullest. His son John noted that his father was a remarkable man with 3 successful careers: a councilman, a musician, and a building contractor. He's survived by his wife Eve Troutman, age 88, his son John, 3 children from his previous marriage, Joanne Kent, Judith McRae, and James Bernardi, and 7 grandchildren, 1 great-grandchild, and Lucille, to who he was married for 59 years, died on October 1993.
All members, other members wishing to say any words about Mr. Bernardi?
God bless Mr. Bernardi. And I saw yesterday at his funeral the love of his family. And if you notice there in the church, they're all very sad. Here's a man who lived 94, and from young and old of his family all stood there very touched by his passing. And I just want to stand and would also echo the name of John Ferraro, who were dear friends with Mr. Bernardi, and they'd laugh and talk, tell Italian jokes.
And I might,
Yes, Mr. Rosendahl.
I might add that I had the pleasure, as I did with a lot of things I did when I did a television show, to have him on the show. He was truly the conscience of the council. He was a straight shooter. He had a great sense of humor, and all of us around the Horseshoe can take a trait or two from him to help us become better elected officials.
Absolutely. Thank you all. And it was very moving. Campaign finance reform, rent control, Proposition 13, a number of different things are certainly his legacy. And anybody who has ever voted no did it certainly with Mr. Bernardi looking over our shoulder. Second adjourning tribute for Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you very much, colleagues. It's with great sadness we adjourn in the memory of Pedro Sanchez, who was 56 years old, a loving husband and father, died on January 7th. He is survived by his wife Juanita and his 4 children, Lupita Sanchez, Patricia, Cindy, and Richard, and 11 brothers and sisters. Pedro Sanchez, as a young teenage boy, came to California to the San Joaquin Central Valley as a migrant farm worker. A couple of years later, he returned to his hometown, where he married Juanita on December 28, 1970. Both were young when they married. Pedro was 21. Juanita had just turned 15. Last week, they celebrated 35 years of marriage. Pedro is most remembered as always being a hard-working man, humble, moral, upstanding man as well. His commitment to family, especially when it came to his wife and children, is most admirable. The family faced their toughest challenge when Pedro was diagnosed with a terminal illness at the end of October, just a few months ago. Pedro passed away of serious complications with pneumonia brought on by his illness. He is survived by his wife Juanita and his 4 children, Lupita, Sanchez, Patricia, Cindy, and Richard, and his 11 brothers and sisters. Members, most of you know his daughter, Lupita Sanchez, and we're adjourning at her request, and certainly I would like to suggest it be all members.
Yes, all
Yes,
members.
all members.
Second that with all members.
And I believe on that, the visitation is Monday, January 16th, and a service as well, and Mass and funeral on Tuesday, January 17th at Rose Hill Memorial Park. Thank you, Mr. Cardenas. Other adjourning motions, colleagues? Ms. Hahn?
Thank you. Members, I'd like us to adjourn today in member of Joseph Galasic, who was a lifelong resident of San Pedro and passed away on December 24th at the age of 69. He operated the Harbor Glass and Mirror Company for 39 years. He's survived by his mother, his wife of 44 years, Georgia, 3 sons, 1 daughter, and 13 grandchildren. Also, Patricia Robinson, who was a 60-year resident of San Pedro, who passed away on December 27th at the age of 65. She was very active in the San Pedro Boys and Girls Club and the Dalmatian American Club, and she's survived by her husband of 45 years, Jack, 2 sons, and numerous other relatives. Also, David Bugarin, who was a longtime resident of San Pedro, who passed away on December 25th. He was a baker at the DeCarlo Bakery for many years, and he's survived by his wife Mary, their 2 sons, and other family members. Also, Rocky Griego, we lost a lot of San Pedrans over the holiday. Rocky Griego was a longtime resident of San Pedro who passed away at the age of 85 on December 24th. He immigrated to San Pedro from Italy as a boy, and he later became a fisherman, a member of ILWU Local 13. He's survived by his wife of 62 years, Lucy, 3 children, 8 grandchildren, and a number of others. Also, Andy Allen passed away on December 29th. He was a community leader that fought for civil rights his whole life, and he and his wife Dorothy started the first black family-owned ambulance service in Los Angeles, Allen Ambulance Services. Was a good friend of my family's for a very long time. He's survived by his wife and children. I'd also like to adjourn in memory of just such a great, great woman and public servant, Marcine Shaw, who was a 60-year Los Angeles resident. She passed away Monday morning after a bad illness. She attended Jefferson High School and later earned a degree from Los Angeles College of Business. She served in the United States Army from 1950 to 1958, where she was a member of the Women Army Corps and attained the rank of sergeant. She worked for my dad, Kenny Hahn, for 18 years as his senior deputy. And she worked on the implementation of several programs, such as the Food Net program, which handled the distribution of surplus commodities from the government. This program was used as a prototype for the entire nation. In 1993, she herself was overwhelmingly elected as councilperson for the city of Compton, and then she was reelected in 1997, and she served as the chair of the Gateway Cities Council of Governments. She also started the Living Legends program, and she brought a host of stars ranging from Cab Calloway to Isaac Hayes to Los Angeles County Libraries. Her influence stretched to Africa, where she is recognized as a traditional queen mother of Elmina, Ghana, West Africa, and to China, where she was one of the first of a handful of keynote speakers at the International League of Cities conference held in that country. She's been acknowledged by U.S. Presidents Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton, and by former California Governor Pete Wilson. She has so many awards, there are too many to list here today, but she leaves 3 daughters, 1 son, 12 grandchildren, and a host of relatives. She really was one of the most special women I have ever known in my life, and someone who I learned a lot from. Her services are scheduled for this Tuesday, January 17th, at the Love and Unity Church of God in Christ. We will really miss Marcine Shaw.
Second. Oh, and Mr. Wesson and Ms. Gruhl on that. Yeah. Mr. LaBonge?
Thank you very much. Join with Councilmember Jan Perry and ask we all adjourn in memory of Colonel Young-O Kim, who was a member of the 100th Infantry in World War II, which is a co-part with the 442nd, was born in Los Angeles, raised right here in Bunker Hill, and was the absolute power of voice of connecting people in the community, whether Korean, Japanese, American, Chinese. He truly was a stalwart there. And I will ask that we all adjourn in that memory if we could at this time.
Thank you, Mr.
Also,
LaBonge.
members, I ask we all adjourn in memory of Warren Dorn, the former Los Angeles County Supervisor. He was the former mayor of Pasadena, grew up in Pasadena, went to Muir High School. After his term on the Board of Supervisors for 16 years, which he really fought about for air pollution. I remember growing up as a child, you'd see pictures where you absolutely couldn't see Los Angeles because of smog, and he was a champion for that. Later, after leaving the Board of Supervisors, he retired to Morro Bay and was the mayor of Morro Bay. His services is today. I ask we adjourn in memory of Warren Dorn. All of us, I think it would be to stand for him. And also, along with Mr. Parks and I'm sure Mr. Smith, the great coach Rod Dato, who was a wonderful, no one will ever achieve his greatness in baseball. He's had 11 national championships for the University of Southern California, and a great teacher, and always would call you Tiger. I mean, he was just very special, a dear friend of John Ferraro. Rod Dato, a teacher, mentor, coach at the University of Southern California baseball. Sadly, members, I also like to adjourn in memory of Jack Stowe, who grew up in Long Beach, went to St. Anthony's and went to University of Notre Dame, later played with Los Angeles Rams, one of the greatest receivers, the Rams' history. He moved with the Rams to St. Louis, and tragically a staph infection caused by the turf in that stadium, they believe, caused his early death at 62. Jack Snow. And finally, members, I think Ellen Stern Harris, as Mr. Rosendahl will call her name on the roll call here. And also, I'd like to say that we should call on all for Lou Rawls, who was very special to us all as a singer, as a mentor. And what he did in developing the United Negro College Fund and the Lou Rawls All-Star Show, which ironically was just on this past weekend, the day that he died. They filmed it at the Kodak Theater in Hollywood in September. He did more to help young people get education in the United Negro College Fund than absolutely anybody. Madam Clerk, I will present the proper papers for all these great individuals. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Mr. Rosendahl.
Yes, and I appreciate Mr. Labange deferring Ellen Stern Harris, who was an incredible activist in the community. I've knew her for 25 years. She was only 76 when she passed. We had a service over the weekend. She helped create Prop 20, which set up the Coastal Commission. She was the first woman put on that. She was a community activist. She was involved in public access television. She was a great lady, and we're all going to miss her in her absence. I have two more. The second one, the mayor suggested I comment on, and it's John Leachy, a 60-year-old educator and advocate of at-risk students. He was with the Unified School District as associate superintendent who developed an innovative program. He was a former high school dropout, became a passionate advocate for children who failed to thrive in the regular classroom. During his 37-year career with the school district, he worked to make sure all students were treated with dignity and encouraged to reach their potential. He created a program called Beyond the Bell that built into a national model. The $250 million a year operation provides before and after school activities and summer school, as well as academic intervention for those who have trouble working in the classroom. Could we adjourn in his honor?
Yes, and could I just say that he was one of the greatest people to work at the school district, having personally worked with him. And just last fall, I was at New High School number 10 down on Washington, not on Washington, on Washington, excuse me. And he was there, and I didn't know he was battling this terrible disease, but he inspired this Beyond the Bell program, which was so important. And I hope they name a school after him in this district. He truly was a great superintendent.
Thank you, Mr.
Can I second that?
All
or
members.
ask that
Sure,
all
Mr.
members?
Labange
Yeah,
seconds
thank
that.
you. All members. I'll call all members.
All
Mr.
members, sure. And my third one is very sad. Sari Sakahara was a 24-year-old visual designer. She lived in my district, and she had a master's in graphic design. The sad story was she was sitting at a bus stop, and an 18-year-old driver went across, hit another car, and the other car hit her and killed her. And so may she rest in peace.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. Mr. Weiss?
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I was told that the family of James Pulliam might be in chambers today. Is the Pulliam family here? I see they're not. Let me tell you a little bit about James Pulliam, in whose honor we will be adjourning today. He was evidently an extraordinary architect who died just recently at the age of 80. He fought to preserve the LA Central Library and had been very involved in civic architecture his entire career here in Los Angeles. A student of his at USC said that he never did the huge mega projects, but he made a large contribution through his civic work, which included controlling how the 210 freeway was designed when it went through Pasadena. He served as president of the LA chapter of the American Institute of Architects. He pushed for a renovation of the LA Central Library long ago, starting in the 70s for that. He moved at age 6 from Kansas to Southern California and lived here the rest of his life. He's survived by his companion, Christine Wheeler, 3 sons, a daughter, and 2 grandchildren.
I'd like to second that, Jack.
Okay. Tom Labange, second. And colleagues, I ask that we adjourn in memory of Betty Blue, who died December 27th over our recess. She was born Bessie Shusett at her home in Butler County, Pennsylvania, on January 22nd, 1918, the youngest of 7 children. Her father died when she was young, and all the children, unfortunately, were sent to an orphanage after he passed away as well. After her mother passed away as well. I'd like to correct that. I'm sorry. Mother remarried, but they were sent to an orphanage nevertheless in between. On August 21st, 1941, Betty graduated from Butler County Memorial Hospital School of Nursing, became a nurse in Pennsylvania, and then here in California. She worked in hospitals in Los Angeles and Hollywood and roomed with her nurse and friend Wilma Whaling. She was working at Good Samaritan Hospital when Howard Hughes was brought there from a crash of a Hughes experimental airplane. And later on, she met Bernard Blue. Bernard's father, Sam, ran a luggage store in downtown Los Angeles on the ground floor of the Rosslyn Hotel. And they decided to start their own store together She hung up her nursing uniform, and they co-founded Bernard Luggage Company in 1946, originally in the Equitable Building at Hollywood and Vine, and now moved later to their current location at Vine Street next to the Taft Building. She balanced motherhood and work with her 2 children, Judy and Robert, while working 6 days a week, and they had all sorts of celebrity customers: Kelly Lang, Stevie Wonder, Dolly Parton, Rosalind Russell, Henry Winkler, and Harrison Ford. Made always people feel like family. She maintained an active RN license with the state of California through 1985 and took over full ownership of Bernard Luggage in 2002 with the death of her husband. Ziggy Cruz, who is also vice chair of the Hollywood Studio District Neighborhood Council, manages the daily operations now, and Betty's son, Robert, continues on as Bernard Luggage moves into its 60th year in business now in Hollywood. She passed away on December 27th, and she will be missed by all of her family, the employees of the store, and the greater Hollywood community. May she rest in peace. And before we adjourn, colleagues, I just want to thank you again for all working together to be here timely and to a great meeting. This was certainly democracy in action today, and I very much appreciate it. Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll. This meeting is adjourned. We'll see you Friday.